little change. The yield on the 10-year, 4.23%, and that's up about 1 basis point. We have the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index up about down about 0.3%. Few stocks on the move this morning. Super Microcomputer plummeting down 17%. It cut its sales forecast. Then you have Snap. Its sales miss. It pointed to a slowdown in advertising revenue growth. Its shares are off about 18%. And finally, home services company Angie, formerly known as Angie's List, it raised its annual revenue guidance. Investors like that, their shares are up about 18%. More action after the close. We move on to DoorDash, Lyft, and Airbnb. News 24 hours a day. Subscribe to Bloomberg News now. Wherever you get your podcasts, I'm Lisa Mateo. That is your Bloomberg Business Flash. Paul and Tom.
Lisa, thanks so much. Paul Sweeney and Tom Keene, good morning in your commute across the nation. Special good morning on YouTube, our new digital platform. Subscribe to Bloomberg Podcasts. It's out there. We're live each and every day from your living room and also from your office. It's really good to go from the strategy of Mike Wilson at Morgan Stanley over to allocation with Russ Kosterich at BlackRock. Russ, I've got up one of your global allocation funds, and it's not 60-40. I mean, the data I have is 84% equity, 21% corporate. Is that the new 60-40?
Well, I think that might be one of our closed-end funds that we're looking at. But I think the premise of the question is exactly right, which is that you go back the period between 2000 and 2020, and you look at what worked. And it was an incredibly basic portfolio. You just owned the S&P 500. You owned a fixed income, mostly treasury benchmark like the ag, and you did very well. And two things have changed. And I think that goes to the premise of your question. One of which is that long duration position that was consistently and negatively correlated with stocks for really 20 years. Between 2000 and 2020, that's not working as well. In other words, put differently, bonds are less reliable hedge against equity risk. The good news is, for the first time really since 2007, you can put together that portfolio of corporate bonds, other spread products, securitized mortgages, get a 6 or 7% yield, something you've not been able to do really since before the financial crisis. So yes, I think the 60-40 does look somewhat different. It's lighter on duration, more on spread product, and you get the benefit of that tailwind for more income, more carry in the portfolio.
Russ, we saw earlier this year during some of the disruption around the tariff initiation, capital flows out of the U.S. into other parts of the world, including European equities. Was that a short-term trade? Has that been reversed, or is that something longer term in your mind?
It's really interesting. If you look at our last couple of days, the local currency return of the S&P 500 and the SX5 being good proxy for European stocks, they basically converged. So you had this massive outperformance of Europe that really began last November. Certainly went through the early spring. That is now really kind of petered out, and what you've seen since the April bottom are U.S. stocks. Again, no surprise, led by tech, led by large cap, led by mega cap, coming back. And I think there are a couple questions to ask yourself. The European trade was interesting. It was underowned at the time. There was some positive pro-cyclical news out of Germany, out of Europe early in the year. But the question is this. We see the resilience in the U.S. economy. We know that most of the earnings growth is really centered in the U.S. economy, particularly the tech and the adjacent names. And if your big worry is uncertainty about tariffs, uncertainty about trade, it's not clear why you would hide out in a market that is much more levered to the trade of goods than the U.S. economy, which is much more domestically oriented, much more based on services.
Russ Kosterich with us here this morning. Russ, I want to get this in before the market opening with Lisa Mateo. The Bloomberg Total Return Index, price up, and then huge price performance out to 2020, low yields rather. And then we crater in the bond market. Russ, I think one of the great unreported stories is the recovery of the Bloomberg Total Return Index, where literally we made back 70% of the carnage culminating in 2023. Is there just more total return for bonds like we've seen in the last 2 years?
I think there's a really solid return from a diversified bond portfolio. And Again, go back to what I said before, getting 6 or 7%, that adds something. In 23 and 24, S&P 500 back-to-back years greater than 20%. Tom, you know this better than anybody. We've not seen that since the 90s.
Yeah,
In addition, yeah, there are a couple scares along the way. We had the short-lived banking crisis in 23. There were issues. The volatility was fairly low. So you look at the risk-adjusted return of stocks,
right.
23, 24, incredible, hard
Yeah.
to beat.
It makes
Some of
you,
that's the reality this year.
yeah,
Stocks are doing okay, but to your point, you've had not only good returns out of the bond market, you've had it with a fraction of volatility. It's got to be part of your portfolio. That
Right.
high quality bond portfolio, it's got to be part of it.
Lisa's looking at the numbers, there are too many to look at. I want to do a shout out, Paul Sweeney's led on this. Nobody I know in the media has said, get the coupon, the lack of volatility is there, and you see it in the recovery of the Bloomberg Total Return Index. Let's switch to equities. Lisa, I see green on the screen.
You do. We'll start with the S&P 500 up about 0.1%, 6 points, 6,304. The Dow up 0.1%, 47 points. The level 44,156. And the Nasdaq up 0.1%, 30 points at 20,944. The two-year yields 3.72%. That's little change. We have the yield on the 10-year of 4.23%. That's up 1 basis point. I have to point out Brent crude right now up more than 1.5% after a couple of days of declines. It's at $68 a barrel. We have COMEX gold down 0.2%, $3,425 an ounce. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index, that's down about 0.3%. The euro up 0.4% at 116.27 against the dollar. And finally, Bitcoin up 0.2%, just above 113,000. That is your Bloomberg opening bell report. All the time.
Thanks so much. Just quickly here before.
Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and we are doing a live stream on YouTube, on X Spaces, and on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. We are doing this on August 6th. The markets have already opened up in New York. We're going to go over the news today. We're not going to do the telemetry dashboard today. We're going to be doing that later in the week. But thank you for joining. I greatly appreciate it. Please help support the work that I do by going to my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And you can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee, or you can be a paid member to my Patreon channel. All the links are in the description of this video. By being a paid member or donating, or even buying the products that are on my store, you're helping to support the channel. All these videos I do are for free to inform you of my opinion about current events or what's going on in the market. So please help support the work. I greatly appreciate it. In addition, please share the links, ask your social media to follow me, and participate. I have a call-in with the X Spaces, so if you have a question about the news or your opinion about what's going on in politics or international events, please share your opinion. It's an interactive show. So thank you for joining me. Again, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description of this video and all my videos. All right, with that said, I want to cover some of the news clips that have been going on here. Let's talk about how Make America Healthy Again movement targets junk food.
Stood and signed 6 additional SNAP waivers. Louisiana, Texas, West Virginia, Colorado, believe it or not, to stop the selling of sugary drinks and junk food. But in those states, no longer can you use taxpayer dollars to do it. It is being called a major win for the month.
It is very important for Americans to understand, and I think deep down inside they do. It's just that they don't act on the knowledge that they have. There are many people that have heart disease and diabetes because of what they eat. All right. Some people can have some of these diseases because of genetics, but most people in the United States, it's because of their eating habits. And obesity rates are going through the roof at a young age. So it's really important to stay away from all pop, all soda. I'm from the Midwest, so it's not soda, it's pop. So it's really important to stay away from all of that crap and to watch the amount of carbs that you consume. And have a little bit of exercise in your life. And that would go a long way in terms of preventing diabetes and heart disease. But unfortunately, people in the United States, especially the youth, they are consuming these products with high sugary content in it that will lead to problems down the road.
Movement. It is a major win. It's not just being called that. More states removing junk food from SNAP programs. That's food stamps, prioritizing real nutrition over processed snacks, sugary drinks. That brings the total to 12 states. So 1 dozen so far, all restricting SNAP purchases of unhealthy food beverages under the new USDA waivers. Caroline. Will it be 50? No.
No, it's not. It's not I'm not really sure how this is going to play out, but I think zooming out here, the fact that SNAP is for low-income Americans, I think, is the biggest point, because for a long time, I think we assumed as a culture that Make America Healthy Again, all these attempts at organic eating, holistic living was a luxury that only the higher echelons of society could really afford. But the stats don't lie. 25% of SNAP dollars go to candy and soda. That is a moral abomination. It used to be that during the Great Depression era, when you think of poor Americans, you think of undernourished, starved people. It's actually the opposite now, that they're overnourished in a way that causes heart disease and hypertension and an obesity crisis. If we're going to subsidize food in America for those who are the most needy, that's fine. But we shouldn't be subsidizing an obesity crisis. And this is the first step in the right direction to actually remove those incentives, because we know that the food companies, especially the junk food companies, are in Congress all the time lobbying to keep basically the SNAP benefits, because they know that at the grocery store checkout line, a lot of these low-income Americans in these very, very disadvantaged communities are buying crap.
Yeah, I actually was taking a libertarian view on this until I read those stats. How much, because I was giving an example of like a single mother who has SNAP benefits and now she'll be deprived of her right to buy her kid a Coke. But I'm talking about one Coke. When 20% or 25% of your SNAP benefits are being used for junk food, sweets, and sugary drinks, it's crossing a line. I mean, ultimately, these benefits are provided to provide people with nutrition, and they are making bad decisions. I still think there's an educational element to this where people have to learn to make those decisions for themselves. But in the meantime, I remind everybody that the SNAP benefits are taxpayer dollars. These are tax dollars that we give to people to nourish themselves, and soda is not nourishing.
Yeah, I'm with you. Changing availability or access doesn't necessarily change behaviors, but at least it's a step in the right direction. It's always appalled me when you go through the store and you can see that this is SNAP or EBT eligible at the junk food that it is. But again, I say that from a privileged position of maybe spending too much time digging into what's in that. So there is an education component that we have to do a better job. But this is the first point. Cut off the easy access.
First of all, it's bullshit for a Fox News talking head to say, oh, I might be in a privileged position and therefore I have more knowledge. It is common sense that you have too much pop, you have too many Big Macs, you're going to be fat and you're going to die from heart disease. I mean, you don't have to be quote privileged. I mean, what is this apologetic bullshit on Fox News? People need to stop being apologetic and just get the job done. God, I hate people like that.
Different choices, and then that
It was
plays
just like
into-
with Bloomberg. I never agreed with his soda ban. You know,
Or salt ban.
we ban things, people will buy 5 small sodas or whatever it is to be able to make up for it. If they don't understand why soda is bad and they can't make that choice, then that's really the core.
But you know why? I used to just complain about Bloomberg, and my husband said, you're gonna hate it when he's gone. And
you did.
It's fall by de Blasio. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so I ate my word.
Yeah.
But the reason that Bloomberg was so fixated on sugar and salt was because of the costs, the healthcare costs to the city of New York, because the city has runs.
This is the
a
point
hospital
I've been
and
making
healthcare.
for years. I've been saying this for 5 years. You take care of your health, and not only are you reducing your healthcare costs in the future, you're gonna have more vitality and you're gonna slow down the aging process. Your immune system and your endocrine system is gonna be functioning better. But at a societal level, when more people do that, healthcare costs will radically go down by the billions. Tens of billions of dollars will be saved. So this fast food crap is literally killing Americans. Now, who makes the money? Corn syrup industry, the corn industry, the sugar industry. Lobbying groups are pushing for this. People bought into it, and now they're fat. They have diabetes, they have heart disease, and they're going to die at a young age.
Yeah.
And then also the insurance cost on all of the city employees. And that is a huge financial burden. He's like, so we need to start focusing on making the people who work for the city, who go into city hospitals and healthcare clinics, somehow get them on the road to better health, because it's going to bankrupt the city.
Well, that's one other thing that the city is the whole system itself, because there is a lot of corruption. I hope in addition to trying to make people eat the right things and avoid obesity in kids, et cetera, they are also looking at the corruption in this system, because it has become, I was talking to Paul Morrow, who knows a lot about the way the city runs, the sort of dirty underside of the city. And one of them is the way in which drug dealers will use SNAP cards in order to, they'll get a number of them under assumed names, sell some of them, split the proceeds with other drug dealers and go on their way. So there's the system. I understand the mothers and the children who need it desperately, who are in dire straits, but there are a lot of people who are gaming the system in a very ugly way and using it to perpetuate crime in the city, in addition to other things.
I just wonder how much this is a sliver of what needs to happen for the nation's health. But
a great way to get people to eat healthier that are in the very low income class that need the SNAP benefits. You have to have a provision where they're not buying junk off of the SNAP program, but also give an incentive to discount fresh vegetables at the grocery store for these individuals that are on SNAP. So if they buy these vegetables, they're getting it at a discount rate, and that discount will offset some sort of tax on the grocery store. So there is some sort of tax benefit that the grocery store will use to be able to lower some of these prices for SNAP recipients. So if someone is higher income that's not on SNAP, they still buy it at the fair value of the price for the vegetables. But give some sort of tax benefit to the grocery store to lower the prices for the vegetables for the SNAP recipients. I think that's a possibility to do. Now, one problem is that some communities are poor in general, and grocery stores in those areas may not have the means to cut their prices down too much because most of their customers are on SNAP. So that might be it. That might have a little, that idea that I had might have a little kink into it in the affordability for the grocery store.
because we are a wealthy nation, our calories are very cheap.
Mhm.
And we are blessed and cursed with that. And that's kind of part of the
We
problem.
both are talking about taking a holistic view though, right? Not just access to junk foods, but the whole healthcare system, the cost of the system. You're talking about criminal enterprises monopolizing resources that should be given to others. And I think that's what's happening now is that everyone's taking a step back on, if we change this here, what's the rest of the impacts and how do we have a holistic view of health for individuals, but also fiscal health for the government, for cities, for the nation?
Jagan hit the nail on the head. If you don't solve this problem at its source, big government is going to get involved one way or another. If you have a bloated healthcare infrastructure because all of Americans are a lot of Americans are increasingly morbidly obese or chronically unhealthy, then somehow we're going to end up subsidizing that as well. So we might as well solve it at the root, which is the food supply.
By the way, Musk would be happy. Dietary guidelines, they have been reduced from 453 pages down to 4 to 6 pages. So there is an attempt also to downgrade the government's role in every single thing we eat because there's a little too much.
Well, and their pyramid was wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Terribly.
But it gets back to paraphrase Pulp Fiction.
Not something.
Bacon is like you're eating bacon. Bacon tastes good. Pork chops taste good. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you tell someone not to eat that, it's bad for them, and they tell you it tastes good.
But the chemicals make it more addictive. And that's another thing that we have to look at. Is that ethical? That there are artificial ingredients that are designed to make those things more addictive? Are you a conscious consumer at that point? If you can't control really your cravings.
Boom.
That's another can of worms.
Yes, it is.
That's a boom.
All right, we're going to go to the next video, which is Ken O'Leary telling Senator Elizabeth Warren to go fix Massachusetts. But before we do, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support the work that I do by purchasing the great products that I offer. These are products that I use every day to help with my health and wellness. Now, if you follow my protocol, if you follow either everything I do or just parts of it, you're going to see major benefits in your health and wellness in a very short order. So, for example, the first pillar of my protocol, which I call the core, is taking Max 14, Max 35, or Cleanse. I have Cleanse in stock. It's a 30 parts per million solution. You take a teaspoon a day, swish it in your mouth, gargle about 20-30 seconds, and then swallow. What that will do is help boost up your immune system, help with the health of your oral pharynx and your oral cavity, help with the epithelial lining in those areas, and help with the mucosal barrier. And by doing that, you're boosting up your immune system. That's the first pillar of my core protocol. The second pillar of the core protocol is taking C60. That's a strong antioxidant. The third pillar is taking turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans. That helps with the cardiovascular health and helps to boost up your immune system. And the fourth pillar is Boomer Boost. Boost up your energy levels and rev up your metabolism. You do that, you go a long way in slowing down the aging process and boosting up your health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Cleanse. It's a 30 parts per million solution that I take every day. I take either the Max 35, the Max 14, or Cleanse, but take it every day. Take a teaspoon a day. If you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon or two a day, and then go back to your maintenance dose. But it's important to take every day. Very important for that oral pharynx health and to boost up that immune system. Another great way to improve your health is to take a multivitamin and a probiotic as a foundational piece of your protocol. Now, I have the powder probiotic in stock. Take it every day. Mix it with soft foods. I mix it with hummus, or you can just mix it with water, but take it every day. Very important. Why? Probiotics are going to help to improve the health of your gut biome. Now, by having a good gut biome, you're going to improve your immune system in your gut area. You're going to improve the mucosal lining of the gut and the concentrations of the IgA, which are helping with the immune system. By having a higher concentration of IgA in your gut, you're going to be able to have a better immune system in the gut biome area. Now, by communicating, by improving the communication between your gut and your brain and your gut and your liver, your body's going to perform better. Your metabolism is going to be better. You're going to be able to absorb your nutrients better. The communication between your gut and your brain also helps with mood. So your mood will be better. You'll have better mental clarity. You'll be able to concentrate better, and you'll sleep better. So these are all positive factors when you take a good probiotic. In addition, you'll notice that your skin improves too. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the probiotics that I have on my store. I have in stock the powdered version. This is what I take every day. And it's a great way to start moving towards getting healthy. Instead of going down the road of diabetes and heart disease and all these other problems, it is important to take charge of your own health. If you do that, and you do some of these holistic things like working out a little bit, improving your brain by learning new things, right? Eating properly, sleeping properly. These are all different modalities that help to improve your health and slow down the aging process. I'm in my 50s. I don't look like I'm in my 50s. I'm older than Alex Jones. Alex Jones looks really old. Now, why do you think that is? He's not taking the proper supplementation, and nor does he live a lifestyle that is conducive of slowing down the aging process. If you follow my direction, you will see results, positive results that will improve your health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5. You get $5 off any order. If you spend $100 or more, you'll get a free gift until supplies last. All right, let's go to Elizabeth Warren and Ken O'Leary.
Family-owned oil company focused on unleashing American oil from North Dakota and Montana. We've already sold over 2.9 million barrels.
When someone stands up and says, I will lead this city by making it more affordable, and here are my plans. Real plans, plans to deliver on childcare, plans to deliver on housing, plans to deliver. We're going to experiment. We're going to try.
Let's think about this for a second. Plans to deliver. They have a real plan. Every single thing that Mamdani said about New York is a socialistic plan, and it's not my opinion. He even admits that it's a socialistic plan. He calls himself a Democrat socialist or a socialist Democrat. I would call him a communist. All right. Not only that, it's really important to understand. We have been down this road before with FDR. Before FDR came into the White House, mostly because of the crash of 29, right? FDR was pushing for socialistic agendas that were right out of Mussolini, Hitler, and Lenin. He had to tone it down a little bit, though. But he was a deep socialist. And not only that, he came from New York. And during that time period, there was a socialistic, progressive thing starting to boil up in politics. And he used the same terms. We have to experiment. And not only that, it was during FDR where he actually took debt, issued debt to buy gold and to take us off of the gold standard. Now, part of the reason was to inflate the currency because there was the currency was, the whole economy was deflating. So that he wanted to increase inflation, something similar to what was going on in Japan in the early 90s. But the point here I'm making is that we've heard this record before, and it was actually for the 1932 presidential election. And thereafter, because FDR won. Now, you don't think I'm right. If you don't think I'm correct with my assessment on this, just do a little bit of research about what was going on in 1929 in New York, 1928 in New York, what was going on in 1930s in New York and the early stages of FDR's presidency. And he used the same terms as Mamdani did and as Elizabeth Warren is doing. This is antithetical to capitalism. So when they start using words like we need to experiment, well, wait a minute. Why do you need to experiment when there are so many societies that have failed this test, this experiment? Now, does that mean that housing is affordable in New York? It's not affordable in New York. But the answer isn't socialism. The answer is capitalism. Socialism is only going to make it worse. But let's continue, because Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, knows everything. Meanwhile, she's a billionaire. Or not a
It's
billionaire.
on groceries.
Wait. Let me rephrase that. I want to stay factual. She's a millionaire. All right. She's not a billionaire, but she's a millionaire. How did she become a millionaire? Working on Capitol Hill, lying to the American public. Oh, insider trading. Insider trading. So she's, I don't know, about 30, 40, 50 million, something like that, somewhere in there. But she's a millionaire. Now, how did she become a millionaire? Insider trading, which if you and I tried to do that, we would have a problem. But she can do it. And she put her money in capitalism to grow it, put it in some equities, some stocks. It went up, she sold, she made money. That's the capitalistic way. But, okay, so it's okay for her to be a millionaire using capitalism, but then tax you so you have less income, less disposable income to invest in the market so you can become a millionaire. So what does she do? She wants to raise your taxes. She wants to raise your taxes because the affordability issue in a city. But meanwhile, she took your taxpayer money because we pay their salary through our taxes. She took your taxpayer money and became a millionaire using capitalism. Now, don't you see this kind of whole picture, kind of everything's upside down? Ridiculous.
The Democratic message.
I watched this lunatic, Pocahontas. She's a total lunatic. I don't know what she's on. She's all jumping up and down like I've never seen anything like it, talking about supporting the communist mayor. And he's not a socialist. He's a communist. Okay, this is not a socialist mayor. This is a communist. If you look at any of his policy.
I totally agree with Trump here on this. I voted for Trump 3 times. It doesn't mean I'm like pro-Trump all the time, because I think sometimes Trump makes mistakes. We're not all perfect. But the thing is that I do know this because I'm highly educated. All right. Ayn Rand, that wrote Atlas Shrugged, warned the American people that this bullshit's going to be coming down the pike. Now, she wrote it in the 1950s, I think it is. Late 1950s, maybe early 1960s, probably 57, I think was the first publication. Maybe 58. But the point here is that that book that she wrote warned the American public, do not pick Mamdani. It's going to be a fucking free-for-all. Don't do it. And why would she say this? Because she literally came from the Soviet Union. She knew exactly what this meant. Now, unfortunately, a bunch of blue-haired, uneducated, don't understand their history, is buying into Mamdani's bullshit. And meanwhile, if you ask these little snot-nosed, blue-haired bitches if they actually read anything from Ayn Rand, they probably would say no.
And go back 6 months. You don't even have to go back further than that. So they want to put a communist in New York. Now, the good news is we have a lot of power over that because we're the ones with the money. We send the money. We don't send the money.
Okay, that was first far-left Senator Elizabeth Warren complaining New York is unaffordable. When Democrats have run New York for 40 years, plus off and on since FDR in the 1930s, the entire state And just moments ago, President Trump calling Elizabeth Warren a total lunatic for supporting communist Zoran Mamdani. Joining us now, O'Leary Ventures Chair, Kevin O'Leary. Mr. Wonderful, what's your reaction to this? It's great to see you again.
Let me get this straight.
Thank you.
Let me get this straight. Kevin O'Leary, he's done well. He actually, I think he was writing software or something back in the early days, educational software, or was part of educational software with Apple. But the point here is that it takes a Canadian to tell the American public about capitalism. What the fuck?
My comments by saying I'm a Boston guy. My kids were born and grew up there. One of them's still in school there. I have a home there. But like all my neighbors, we all live in Florida now because of Elizabeth Warren. I applaud her. She says outrageous things and she raises.
Don't forget, he's still a Canadian.
Lots of money behind that. She's a marketer. But this comment she's making about affordability in New York, she's full of poo-poo on that. The reason you don't have affordability in New York is because of policy. It has been mismanaged now for decades. And so if you're a developer like I am, I would love to invest in affordable housing in New York. I need a permit. You can't put rent control on it or I can't get a return for investors. And what happens is the capital just goes somewhere else. What he's proposing, particularly on rent control, and I don't know yet because I haven't met with him yet and I'm trying to get a meeting, on a new building, on a new development, on new capital coming in, is he going to put rent control on that? There won't be any capital. Nobody's going to invest in that. They'll just go to Tennessee. They'll go to Texas. They'll go to Florida. They'll go to North Dakota, South Dakota. He's got to understand, if you want to have policy like that in the States, the founding fathers made it competitive. You don't have to invest in New York. As I've said many times, even with you, you can see the Rockettes. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not putting a dime in there until I find out what the policy is going to be.
Exactly. That's the problem. And they don't say
And
it.
so
But
if you have developers not developing, then what's going to happen is rents are actually going to go up. The cost of living is going to go up under Mamdani, not go down. So there's going to be white flight, high income flight. People are going to leave the city. If Mamdani wins and gets what he wants, and he institutes these policies, there's going to be a major exodus out of New York. It's going to happen. Now, you just think about it. It's happened before. It happened in the 70s. It happened in the 60s in New York. There was white flight out of Detroit. Most of Detroit was white. And then they left to the suburbs. Same thing in Chicago. So these inner cities, when there's a certain threshold point, there's a tipping point where there's going to be higher income level people leaving the city and going to a different state, a surrounding suburb or whatever. And maybe this is the real end of this 15-minute city bullshit. All right? Maybe what it is that the high income people will start to realize that it doesn't make sense to live in an urban environment because the socialists have taken over and turned it into a living hell. And so you just move out to suburbia, where you have a little bit of land, you can have your dog run around in the yard, you can have a garden, you can have a white picket fence. You can't do that in New York. So maybe this is a good thing that we actually break the back of this idea of a 15-minute city. Because socialism, a controlled top-down government is going to screw things up. There is an invisible hand, quoting Adam Smith, there's an invisible hand of the markets that allows for an emergent property where there's a natural equilibrium that takes place. Now, that doesn't mean that people that doesn't mean that the system is completely fair. But it is going to be more prosperous under a capitalistic system than under a socialistic system. And this is what Ayn Rand was talking about. Individualism is more important by far than collectivism. The American flag is about individualism. But there's that invisible hand that is the glue on of us as a society where we're together, we're one, but we're all individual. And that chaotic, emergent property of society allows us to have a flourishing economy, a flourishing country. You can't have a top-down control. It will just destroy what we have. So the flag, the American flag, represents individualism. Individual stars contained in a box, contained in a square, 50 stars, each of them individual, but that when amalgamated makes one whole. That's the whole ethos of Americana. It's not top-down government. It's not a hammer and a sickle with a few stars. It's the stars and stripes. And never forget that. Never, ever, 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 ever forget that.
Senator Warren wants socialist communist Zohran Mamdani's idea to have taxpayer-funded and government-owned grocery stores. Communist Venezuela has a severe food crisis. It's got 20,000 government-owned grocery stores, Kevin. I mean, 40% of Venezuelans' children are malnourished or going hungry. And also this, Kevin, didn't Joe Biden turn over his entire White House to the far left, and then inflation hit 40-year highs? I mean, when champagne socialists claim they're going to make something free, it's just going to make something more unaffordable or less available. And everyone's taxes go up.
You know, I must tell you something. You might find this interesting. The first time this story broke last week, they had some images of one of these grocery stores in another state that was state-run. And it had like one bag of lettuce on the whole shelf. I saw that image in Soviet-controlled Ukraine in the early 80s. It freaked me out. Rotten apples, one or two of them on a shelf. And there it is. You've got these images.
We don't need a Canadian, Kevin O'Leary, on Shark Tank to tell us this. All we have to do is listen to people that actually left the Soviet Union, came to America, became a productive citizen, and wrote about their experiences, either in a memoir or in a story. And when you pay attention to those stories that they literally lived through in the Soviet Union, they're warning us, do not go down this road. Mamdani is a cancer. And you know what we need to do with cancer? We need to cut it out.
It really looked like I was there. I saw it. It gave me a chill to see that. That can't be America, and that can't be New York. And what is Elizabeth Warren doing in New York anyways? Get out of there. Go fix Boston. Go fix Massachusetts. Why don't you try and get some guys like me back there? You've made the policy impossible there. You want to destroy another state? With all due respect, because I love the way she markets this outrageous stuff. She's one of the winners in raising $5 at a time.
All right, Kevin O'Leary. We love Mr. Wonderful because he's out there in the real world. He's telling it like it is. Kevin O'Leary, you're terrific. Thank you so much. Now to this.
Major problem happening in New York. But because this is a capitalistic show, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take my advice. Do the things that I'm doing. Use the products that I have on my store to help with your health. All right. I want you to get healthy in 2025, in 2026, 2027, into your geriatric years, so you have more vitality. And guess what? Because of an emergent property, when more people do this, our healthcare costs will go down. So please help yourself, help support my work, and help support the society in general by taking charge of your own health. It's about individualism. But there's an emergent property that takes place when more people take charge of their life, and the society in general becomes more productive. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver soaps that I have. I have it in lemongrass. I have it in charcoal tea tree, very high quality soaps. Get a couple bars for your household. I also have it in peppermint in the new labeling and also in lavender in the new labeling. So please get a few bars for your household, very high quality structural nail silver soaps. All right. And support capitalism. Another thing to help support capitalism, I have partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we've developed these deodorant bars that are dual purpose, made from essential oils from the Himalayas. All natural ingredients, no aluminum, no baking soda, all natural ingredients. You can get it in citrus and you can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. It's for males and females, and it's dual purpose. You use it as a daily deodorant, but it also will help to detoxify your body at the same time. And guess what? We got a lot of chemicals in the air and on surfaces. We are bombarded by chemicals. You need to detox your body regularly, or it's going to affect your immune system and your endocrine system. So it's really important to take products that help to detoxify your body. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great deodorant bars that I offer. So if you spend $150, if you spend $100 or more, I will give you a free gift. All right. It was $150, but I decided to be nice. Why? Because that's the way capitalism is. So if you spend $100 or more, you'll get a free gift. In addition, use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. Please help support the work that I do. All this is for free. And it's a great way to, I guess, get entertained, but also to get a little bit of knowledge of what's really going on in the world. All right, let's listen to Mike Rowe analyzes the threat of AI for new college grads.
By those debt repayments. So let's bring in somebody who knows a lot about work. And isn't afraid to get dirty doing it sometimes. Mike Rowe joins me now of the Mike Rowe Works Foundation. He and his team giving away $5 million in scholarships this month to people who choose to learn a skilled trade rather than getting that 4-year degree. Mike, it's great to have you with us today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. No, it's great to be here.
So one of the things that stuck out to me is Dario Amodei of Anthropic, the AI company. He said employment could spike to between 10 and 20% in the next 5 years. He thinks that people are sugarcoating how many jobs are actually going to disappear when AI is, more fully enforced. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know. I suspect it's going to be monumentally disruptive. I don't know when and who is going to pay the price first, but I do feel pretty certain that the jobs we're training people for, and I've been saying this for 17 years. I know I'm a broken record on your network, but it is gratifying in a weird, twisted kind of way to see this come to pass. We have welders and steam fitters and pipe fitters and such a huge need right now for electricians and HVAC and collision repair. People think I'm just all hyperbolic about it, but there's not a week goes by at my foundation where I don't get a phone call from somebody at the top of the food chain in a major industry who's saying, we're looking for 50,000, 100,000. The Marine Maritime base right now, the guys that build our submarines are looking to hire 250,000 tradespeople. So you just can't ignore that amount of opportunity. Having said that, AI, robots, all of it eventually is going to impact everybody. But at the moment, if I were betting, I'd say learn a skill that's in demand, avoid the debt, and go to work.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about all the people out there who went to college to get a degree that took them forever to pay off, and maybe their degree was in something that was sort of esoteric and not really that useful, and how well they could be, putting food on the table and growing a business and hiring other people, if they had taken a route that might have been a little bit more, front row for them. This is from the Diary of a CIO podcast. I thought this was interesting. This is Mo Gaudet of Google. Watch this.
CEOs are celebrating that they can now get rid of people and have productivity gains and cost reductions because AI can do that job. The one thing they don't think of is AI will replace them too if a CEO can be
It's not just that. It's not not only are the CEOs beating their chest saying that they can reduce their workforce and become more productive for Wall Street, so their stock price will go up and they'll have a better executive package. It is true that eventually AI will replace them, the CEOs or the C-suite. But it's more important to understand that who buys the goods when you reach the threshold point, when you have 10, 25% unemployment. There's a certain point that you lay off too many people and no one buys your goods or services, because R2-D2 and C-3PO aren't going to buy your services and your goods. So you have to have a workforce. This is what I keep on mentioning about the capital and labor decoupling. And that economics doesn't, modern day economics doesn't have a good theory of this. Now, I personally think that what's going to happen is there's going to be a war. People are going to not be able to afford their life, support their family, and there will be something that's very similar to the French Revolution. Because what has happened is that the AI development made some people very wealthy, while others will start to slowly become poorer and poorer and poorer over time. And eventually it'll reach a threshold where the masses will have to overthrow the aristocracy. Very similar to what happened in France during Napoleon's time. It's not going to be it's not going to be an American Revolution. It's going to be a French Revolution that takes place in this post-layoff world because of AI. So he needs to think even farther.
One of our
farther down
processes
the
is going
road.
to disappear. We are going to hit a short-term dystopia. There's no escaping that.
You know what,
No.
I always wonder.
I think what's going to happen, I
This
think,
is
no,
very
I
cheery.
put a lot of thought into this. I think there's going to be a short-term utopia. Short-term, very short-term utopia where there'll be people that are more productive and they have money in the market and it's climbing. And then all of a sudden people start to get laid off, more people get laid off, the economy starts to falter, then you start to go into depression. And that's when you start to have the bubblings of a revolution that takes place. That's the dystopia. It's not a short-term dystopia. It's a short-term utopia with a longer duration of dystopia.
Wonder if it's true. You know, when I put something into ChatGPT and I ask it a question and it spits something out, I have to like kind of look at it and, you know, figure out if it's actually correct or where they drew from in the internet to get that information. And I feel like if you send someone a letter written by AI, you write a little speech for a birthday party, it's so obvious to me that it was cranked out on this machine. Do you think these people are right about how doomsday and how replaceable all this is?
No, but I also think it's the top of the first inning. I mean, it's so early. So I really go back and forth with it. You know, I mean, if you're messing around with ChatGPT, ask it to analyze the Luddite revolt, which happened hundreds of years ago when the loomers and the weavers really had to deal with a new level of technology that was going to completely eliminate their jobs, or so they thought. We've been having variations of this conversation for decades, maybe even centuries. And every time we say it's different. And every time it is a little different, but it's never quite as apocalyptic as the headlines would have us think. I want to say something else too about the article you mentioned in the journal. I think it's excellent and it's worth the read, but it does something that a lot of CEOs are doing today and a lot of pundits and really all of us. We can't help it. We paint with an impossibly broad brush. And that article is talking about grad school, good or bad, college, good or bad, debt. And look, it's so individualistic and the individual gets lost. The macro works of it is legit. That's the purview of politicians and so forth. I'm micro works, right? We handpicked 526 people who applied for work ethic scholarship this year. And it's true, we're going to give them $5 million next week. We've been doing that for 17 years. It works. But if you want to tell a big story, sometimes, honestly, you got to start with one person. And it's easy to forget about the individual and the stats.
And that is something that you don't do. And $5 million is a great concept to give a lot of these people a gift at building something real for themselves that can be very marketable. And we thank you very much for what you do, Mike. And thanks for stopping by. We don't get tired of this message. I think this is a very important message. So I'm glad you came by to talk to us again today.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye. See you tomorrow. We'll do the same segment. Bye, Mike.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox.
All right. Trillions. Trump economist touts Apple's investment commitment. So that's a little too long to cover. All right. We could see an economic boom for all the pent-up capital, says B of A's analyst. Before we go to CNBC, really quick, please help support the work that I do. Take these supplements that I'm telling you how to stack, and you're going to start to see improvements in your health and wellness. Now, a great stack that you should be doing is the vitamin C and magnesium with the magnesium and zinc. Now, you can take them separately, but you'll get added benefits if you take them together. Now, what's really important with magnesium is that it's going to help with brain function. Now, in several videos, I've been talking about how important it is as we having an aging population. You're going to start to see people within your social network with now or within the next 5 years that are going to have cognitive decline and motor coordination issues. So it's really important that you pay attention to what I have to say here. It's going to happen. Now, you can mitigate this by doing what I tell you, and that is proper supplementation that will help with protecting neurons, and certain exercises and certain holistic approaches. Now, how do you improve your brain function? You improve your brain function by reading, writing, thinking, analyzing, talking to real people, not on the internet, right? All right, but just real people in the real world, doing some exercises because you want to activate those neurons. You want to get better blood flow for your brain. So there's two areas that you need to consider: the cognitive function area and the motor coordination area. So if you activate your neurons for cognitive function by learning new things, right, and taking the proper supplementation to create the microenvironment for positive neuroplasticity and to improve the health of the myelin sheath and have more energy for those neurons, you're going to have healthier neurons. Now, by doing different exercises like resistance training, you're activating a certain type of neuron to contract the muscle. You're also doing balancing exercises to activate the cerebellum. Stretching exercises activates neurons that are at the ends of your muscle. All right, these are all different neurons. They're different nerves, all right, that are activated to allow for the contraction. Now, by doing cardiovascular, you're getting better blood flow for the micronutrient environment for your brain. So these are really important. So one very important supplement to take is magnesium to help with brain health. But you're going to see lots of people not paying attention or don't know, and you're going to see people saying things like all the time, or having a hard time constructing a sentence, or having a hard time connecting different thoughts while they're speaking. You're going to see this soon within your social network. Now, some of them are geriatric, and it's the beginnings of Alzheimer's or some other levels of dementia. But you're going to start seeing people that are in their 40s having this problem. And you need to pay attention. It's a holistic approach to prevent this from happening. All right. Now, I'm not going to go into the details on why it's happening. I think you already know that. All right. But it's happening. So you need to mitigate the issue. Now, how do you mitigate it? You mitigate it by doing the proper exercising, mindfulness or spirituality, meditation that calms the central nervous system, gets you out of sympathetic and puts you into parasympathetic mode. That helps with the healing process. Doing the 4 different modalities of exercise that I just mentioned, proper diet, proper sleep to help to detoxify the central nervous system, to help you to consolidate memory. These are all super important to do. So it's not just taking the supplementation. It's not just reading a book. But if you do all these things that I'm saying, you're going to improve your chances of not having these issues that other people are going to be having. And I'm telling you, you probably have noticed it now with your social network that people are having cognitive or motor coordination problems. And it's starting in their 40s. So pay attention to me, it's happening. All right. So vitamin C and magnesium is a dual purpose supplement. What it's going to do is it's going to help with your skin. It cross-links with collagen to help with the dermal layer for vitamin C. Vitamin C is also an antioxidant. And vitamin C and magnesium helps with your immune system, and the magnesium helps with brain function. Now with magnesium and zinc, also helps with the immune system, and you get the brain function from magnesium. Now, stack them together and you're helping with your immune system and brain function. Another key point with magnesium is that it helps with the efficacy of D3. So D3 works better when you take magnesium. So stack these together. Use discount 5. I want these products in your hand. They work. These are things that I take every day. So use the discount 5. You spend $100 or more, get a free gift till supplies last. I want you to get healthy. You follow my direction, you're mitigating the problems that many other people are going to have. You don't listen, and you're increasing your chances of having the same problems that other people will have. It's that simple. Oh, this is too long.
President Trump is cracking down on unreliable.
I didn't want to play that one. Sorry, guys. Let's see. All right, I want to play Bill Maher's truth bombs here.
And she talks about the fact that she has blue eyes, and then she says, I have great genes, you know, because she's wearing jeans. Guys, I'm off to good for August, but Bill Maher is getting close. I don't know if he'll get there, but he's getting closer to the promised land. Maybe, Bill, come on. And in other uncomfortable racial news, it's sad news. We found out this week that Sydney Sweeney is a Nazi. That was just, no, she's not. But you all see the ad that she's out there. This is a very important ad that's we're seeing now. There she is, dressed like Jay Leno in all blue denim. And she talks about the fact that she has blue eyes, and then she says, I have great genes, you know, because she's wearing jeans. But according to the woke people, this means that she's a white supremacist. It also doesn't help that her bra size is 36 KKK. And that the name she gave her tits is the Proud Boys. But other than that,
I didn't watch this video, so I'm just going to cut it. But the point here, I think the important point here is that you had an individual, Sweeney, that is in an ad for American Eagle jeans. All right. Now, if you go all the way back to the 80s, I believe something very similar, maybe even the same brand, I'm not sure, happened with Sydney, Crawford. And the point here with these apparel companies in the DEI woke era was that they were putting individuals in their ads to promote this kind of like very liberal agenda. And it was eroding. I mean, they were promoting the erosion of the 3 pillars. And those 3 pillars are God, country, and family. Well, if you have apparel companies, you know, promoting that, oh, it's masculinity is bad and that whites are bad and all this stuff. And it's just promoting unhealthy habits. All right. They were promoting literally obesity is okay. No, obesity is not okay. It's not okay. My brother died because he didn't know how to control his weight and what he was eating. And it was about high carbohydrate diet, and heart disease ran in the family. And guess what? He increased his chances of having a heart attack. He died at age 36 from a heart attack. Why? Because of poor lifestyle choices. But the thing is that you have apparel companies or lingerie companies like Victoria's Secret that were promoting for a period of time this whole liberal agenda where people that were way overweight were being almost like put on a pedestal, that it's okay to be over. Some people have problems with their weight. That's for sure. And they're trying, some people try to lose weight. Some people aren't successful. Some people don't know how to do it. And once they get educated on how to do it properly, then they move in the right direction. And all power to them for the ones that have the will to try to change their lifestyle. But there is a group of people out there in marketing that says, it's okay to be that way. Oh, it's okay to die early because of your lifestyle. And then their sales were starting to fall. Victoria's Secret sales fell. Their flagship store was closed in New York because no one was buying anything because their models were disgusting looking. So what has been happening is that apparel companies are saying, you know what? We need to go back to what it was like in the 80s, where people bought because there was a multiple dimensional aspect to the ad. There was a little bit of attractiveness with the models. There was this sense of American pride within the ad. So with the Sweeney ad, there's the Mustang. All right, that's an American, and that was like a 1960s Mustang. I think it was 68, maybe 65. So you have a Mustang in the commercial. That's super, you know, it's a muscle car, right, of the 60s. You have jeans. You know, what's a big part of Americana? Jeans and rock and roll, right? So you have this sense within the ad of Americana. Not this woke stuff that's trying to destroy Americana. So I think that I wouldn't buy American Eagle jeans. I personally come from the standpoint, if you're going to buy jeans, it has to be Levi's. But the thing is that that's just me. I mean, there's certain things that if I buy something, it has to be a certain brand. It absolutely has to be. So DrPaulCottrell, you know, inside baseball here, DrPaulCottrell, if he's wearing jeans, it has to be Levi's, right? Nothing else. But all right, but that's just me. But the idea of having an ad that is rebooting Americana and also selling products is a good thing. Instead of demonizing America, demonizing God, country, and family, and not selling anything and having the stock plummet. Woke goes broke. You go woke, you go broke. It's that simple. And these marketing people are starting to get pressure from the CEOs and the C-suite that, you know what? It's time to get back to business and selling jeans. All right? Or selling whatever. But stop this whole woke agenda. Now, what has happened is that you've had some people that are part of the DEI and affirmative action that have moved into the C-suite, and they've been dictating to their marketing group and they're hiring also woke people within their marketing group to, push this agenda. But again, they're tanking their company, and then eventually the board of directors starts to get pissed off. The shareholders get pissed off, and they push out those individuals that were elevated in the C-suite. And then voila, those woke people are out of the C-suite, and it's coming back to Americana. It makes zero sense to demonize Americana, right? And think that it's going to actually get you to sell your jeans, especially if your company's called American Eagle. Why would you try to demonize America if part of your name is American Eagle? All right. So I personally think that going back to this 1980s era of marketing is a smart move. And literally, it's helping their stock. It's helping their sales. By Victoria's Secret going back to these fashion models instead of these obese models, they're selling more product now. So I think this is a good thing. But the liberal agenda, the liberal people out there, the blue-haired dipshits out there, they're having a fit. Heaven forbid that you reboot Americana. Heaven forbid that it's about God, country, and family. Heaven forbid that you actually show on TV or show on, in these apps or videos, these inside ads within the video, an attractive woman promoting a product, or a masculine male promoting a product. Why does everything have to be some sort of, homosexual kind of ad? Why? It wasn't like that in the 80s. And actually, when you have this kind of thing happening, when you're promoting these kinds of behaviors, these negative behaviors from DEI and these woke agenda, sales usually drop. Sitcoms are disgusting to watch now. Absolutely disgusting to watch. I didn't live in that kind of America. It's not an America that I even want to live in. And I sure as hell ain't going to watch it. And I sure as hell ain't going to buy anything that's being advertised in that on those sitcoms. Big sections of America are saying this. And it's affecting the bottom line. And CEOs are waking up and taking control of their marketing department. Because a lot of marketers in general they're either metrosexual, homosexual, or they have this like very liberal agenda. Very few marketers are actually conservative. But the thing is that there is this kind of reboot of conservatism that's taking place. All right. And we're tired of this encroachment on our lives that it's almost as if Pride Month is every month. Pride Month, in the liberal world, in the liberal mindset, Pride Month means every year, every day of the year, every commercial, every sitcom, every whatever has to keep on pushing this pride agenda. Now, why? I personally think what it is that if you demasculate males and you make women unattractive, what's going to happen is you're going to lower procreation. And then when you do that, you're also making the society less willing to resist when you need to resist. Because when there is a revolution that needs to take place, do you want men with a bunch of testosterone that have muscles for that revolution? Or would you prefer demasculated society? Now, the ones that are in control trying to prevent a revolution wants the demasculization to take place. And this is the overall point of this projection of the Pride movement in Americana. And that ad is saying enough is enough. You put the fist down on the table and you say, we're taking back the country. The woke shit is over. That's what that ad means. And all these liberals are having a hissy fit. Now, would I buy American Eagle jeans? No. Why? Because Dr. Paul Cottrell only wears Levi's. Period. Full stop. All right? All right. Let's listen to White House officials talking about Apple.
Traders, welcome back to the TradingView channel. In this video, we're going to be introducing you to our all-new TradingView Smart AI Indicator, developed in collaboration with...
Getting some breaking news on Apple this morning. Let's get to Washington and Megan Cassell. Hey, Megan.
Hey, Carl, good morning. So we've known the president was making a big announcement today at 4:30 p.m. in the Oval Office. And now we can report that, according to a White House official, it's an Apple investment. Apple.
There's a breaking news that's taking place. Trump advisors push for temporary Fed governor to fill open seat. So there's going to be a shakeup at the Federal Reserve.
Will be upping its investment in the U.S. by $100 million to bring the total to $600 billion over the next few years. They say this $100 billion commitment to America is a significant acceleration of the U.S. investment they've already announced. They say that part of this investment will go towards what they describe as an American manufacturing program. It's dedicated to bringing even more of Apple's supply chain and advanced manufacturing to the U.S. They say through the program, they'll be inventing.
So this is good. This is good. We're an American company. Apple is reinvesting in America. All right. But if you look at the mosaic, especially with the Sweeney ad for American Eagle, this is just proving my point. The pendulum of liberalism has lost momentum and it's starting to swing back to conservatism. This is a good thing. This is a good thing for America. But during this switching over to conservatism, you're going to have these holdouts within the liberal community where they have their nose pierced and they're, and have their they tattooed their forehead and everything else. All right. They're going to have a hard time adjusting to this conservative movement. The ones that haven't destroyed their body or their mind, they'll be able to adapt and morph into conservatism quicker. But there's going to be some holdouts out there. These what I'll call the blue-haired liberal holdouts. They're going to be kicking and screaming the whole time, trying to burn down the town. But here in a mosaic, we're seeing bringing back America, bringing back that economic clustering, bringing back that productivity, bringing back opportunity in businesses in the American way, the can-do spirit. American is I can, not I can't. All right? So it's I can. It's can do. Now, this is a phrase that was used with the CBs in the Navy, which was established during World War II, which my grandfather would happen to be one of them. All right? The CBs in the Navy had this phrase, can do. There was no such thing as can't. That was not in their vocabulary. If there was a mission, it was can do. Something had to be done, can do. Today, in today's society, it's everyone finds a reason why they can't. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. No, we need to reboot that can-do spirit. Can do. You had a lot of economists saying you can't bring back manufacturing. So all these economists, even though they were educated at these elite institutions in America, American institutions, they had this mindset in the ivory tower of America, I can't. But the real America, the real American is I can. Not I can't. I can't. I have such an aversion to people that say I can't do something. You can do something. You find a way. You find a way. Those are the types of people that you want to gravitate to. Those are the types of people that you want to listen to. Those are the types of people that you want to emulate. That's the type of person that you need to be. A can-do person, not a I can't person.
Incentivizing global companies to manufacture even more critical components in the United States, guys. All of this attributable to a White House official who also confirms to me that Tim Cook will be in the Oval Office for the announcement later today. Again, that's scheduled for 4:30 p.m., guys. So we know that Tim Cook has been talking consistently with the president this term, as he did in the first term as well, to try to get better relationship and also better treatment for Apple amid tariffs, amid export controls, so many policy issues that impact the company. We also know this president responds very well to investment commitments like this one. So now we see Apple upping its investment commitment by another $100 billion.
So Megan, does that mean they're going to get an exemption from tariffs on India? I mean, that's what.
No, think about this for a second. Tim Cook, on stage, about 4 or 5 years ago, stated he couldn't move his manufacturing back to the United States. That was impossible. Because Tim Cook, a liberal, I believe homosexual, but the thing is a liberal, even though he's married. But the thing is that he was a liberal, having an I can't attitude. And oh, by the way, haven't you noticed that Apple is a little bit pushing the pride shit? Have you noticed that? I'm not wrong on my assessment on what I'm seeing in America.
It's got to assume it's quid pro quo.
That is the biggest question. And David, after we spoke about this yesterday, I tried to ask the White House whether they've been in touch with Tim Cook specifically about India tariffs, which we expect the president to lift higher over the next 24 hours or so. At the time, I was told that the White House would not read out any private conversations. They would not even confirm whether the two men had been in touch recently. But when we see them on camera later today in the Oval, Tim Cook and Donald Trump next to each other, that's going to be a major question on my mind, is what the discussion has been around India. We'll have to see. Maybe they do get some exemption from those higher tariffs.
Okay, so Megan, despite the fact that they produce 19 billion chips in the U.S., that they're opening 24 factories in the U.S. in 12 different states, that they've probably been one of the most important, if not the anchor tenant for TSMC. What do they need to do for the president to stop saying that those phones that are being made in India must be made here?
That's the biggest question, Jim, and that I think is what leads to investment announcements like this one. Now, these are exceedingly hard to track after they're announced, and we have to see, when does this money start to flow? What does it look like? But things like this are generally how companies and now how foreign countries have been trying to get on the president's good side. I mean, it's not just the India tariff against Apple either, guys. You know, there's that ongoing investigation into semiconductors, for example, very likely to lead to higher tariffs, potentially within the next month or so. The way that investigation is written is that it could lead to tariffs on anything that even includes a semiconductor, such as an iPhone. So that's on the table here too. Are they going to get a carve out from that? Or will they be hit with that investigation in addition to the India tariffs, the China tariffs? There's so many issues on the table. You've got to think that they hope that this wins them some better treatment.
We'll watch for that this afternoon, Megan. Thank you, Megan Casella.
This is what Ivy League universities you can get into with a 3.6 GPA.
90% of students with a 4.0 plus.
It's not about GPA. See, people keep on understanding. People misinterpret with the Ivy League. It's not about just high GPA score or high assessment score. It's also the attitude of the student. Because most of these elite institutions like Harvard, all right, everyone's thinking like, oh, it has to be like, you know, the very top, you know, in assessment scores. No. Now, it does allow for the chances of getting in higher, but there's a mosaic of the student, all right? And every student at Harvard gets read. So their application, 57,000 of them, it spreads across the United States. So wherever they're actually applying, you know, if they're out of state. So that state has representatives within the Harvard community that actually reads the application. Every single fucking application to Harvard is read by a human being. And people don't get that. People, that's the little secret, all right? But if you got the right chops in terms of attitude, in terms of being able to conduct yourself the way you write your scores, right? You don't have to be perfect. They don't want perfect. Because if you have perfect, then that means you didn't fail. And you learn more by failing than not failing. Life is about failure, not about success. It's how you pick yourself up. It's about that can do. All right, here we go. The Chinese humanoid robot freaks out New Yorkers.
The Trump administration looking to win the AI race against China as the White House's Director of Science and Technology Policy pitches U.S.-made chips at a tech forum in South Korea. Cyber guy Kurt Knudsen joins us now. So good to see you this morning.
Charlie, good to see you. Keep your eye on this one. This is APEC. This is out in South Korea. So it's the U.S. versus China. It's really a chance for us to come out and say, all right, we as Americans, here's our plan with AI. So the Trump administration is there, and they're essentially saying, take off the shackles, let's innovate. We're going to own it. Here's the software we're going to have. You should use our stuff around the world that we're making in the U.S. China, on the other hand, very different. Instead of allowing private industry to innovate, the government's going to do that. They want to, well, be more open, share this, try to get as many people using the Chinese version of whatever AI standards may come out of APEC. But really, it's just, I'll show you what I've got, you show me what you've got, and let's see. The rest of the world is going to pick one or the other ultimately. Right. So that's what we're watching.
So real quick, because I want to get to the second story. In a blind taste test, who makes the best chips?
Oh, we do, no doubt.
Without
NVIDIA. No, I mean, they're the leader in this industry. You know, it all started from a graphics. I don't want to get too geeky on you, but it all started with a really good graphics chip that now is really the basis of AI here in innovation in our country. We've got them. I mean, we've got, hands down, America's got that right now. Next year, year after, that's a question. You got to keep innovating. You got to stay on it.
And history shows that private innovation is usually better than government innovation.
100%.
And which is how we won the Cold War. True, of course. So the second thing I want to ask you about is I want to ask you about this robot, and I'm like really disturbed by this. I mean, that was right here in New York City, strolling down. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but as you can see, people are really not sure exactly. Am I going to start seeing this? Are we going to see this everywhere?
So this is named Koi. This is a Unitree robot out of China that was set loose in Midtown Manhattan. And it had a variety of responses, mostly freaked out. It went in to try on some Hoku shoes at a local store. Yeah. And people are like, what? And the guy working there was like, oh, okay, I'll get you. What size shoe do you want? And he goes, tries it on. What a lot of people don't know is it wasn't autonomous. It's not like thinking, oh, I think I'll go in here and get some shoes. It was a remote control. It was really a gimmick to get attention on the Unitree robot, and also an interesting EFT or cryptocurrency that they're trying to promote related to it. But you know, it is interesting because it got everybody going like, what are you doing here? What are you all about? And it's very unsettling to see a robot on the loose.
It is unsettling, and it kind of makes me think you shouldn't go down the street without being armed, maybe with a garden hose.
No doubt. A garden hose, you think that'll stop them?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work.
So, but
maybe a fire hose.
Yeah, I'm not so sure anymore. It looks like it might be waterproof.
Look at the kids on the stroller, like, what the heck is going on?
Don't step away. But you did say it was remote controlled, so
yeah. So there's a guy you're not seeing on camera.
But when it becomes autonomous. And it becomes autonomous by just overlaying the AI with the servo motors. All right. So you just upload a brain to the humanoid, and now it's autonomous. Now, if you can have autonomous drones in warfare, don't you think you can have autonomous humanoids? We are literally in 2025, at the very beginnings of Star Wars,
It's just near him that's causing this robot to do this. But imagine you're in your own town and this thing starts running down your street at you. You can't be like, what in the world is going on? They're invading, right? Exactly.
All right, thank you so much. Get Kurt's free Cyber Guy report to a newsletter to see how to get Google to stop tracking your every move at cyberguy.com. Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. More Fox and Friends next.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews.
all right, let's listen to Paul Ryan on Trump's tariff agenda. See if he has something positive to say.
Luca Faloni's cotton chinos are meticulously handcrafted in Italy by skilled artisans using premium cotton.
Things right now.
Before we go to Paul Ryan, I need to plug some products here. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin B complex. Vitamin B complex, the first 4 B vitamins, helps with the mitochondrial health. It's going to boost up ATP levels. B complex helps to rev up your metabolism, your cellular metabolism. And B complex helps to protect your neurons. Super important, especially when you are 40 years of age or older. Clarity factor, you should be taking this every day. It's going to be able to allow you to concentrate at work or at school, or even if you're retired. It'll allow you to focus on tasks that you normally need lots of concentration on. And by doing this regularly, it's going to help support your memory. Drink it with filtered water. And over time, you're going to have these positive neuroplastic connections that will help with speeding up your brain processing, help to improve your memory. And this is very important to take. Why? Because I'm telling you, in the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot of people having motor coordination issues and cognitive function issues. You need to mitigate. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the clarity factor and also get the B complex. This is a great stack to help with your neurons and also help with your cellular metabolism.
For Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, who's currently partner at Salomon Capital and vice chairman at Teneo. And it's good to see you, sir. Morning. I'm curious what you make of the dialogue here as it relates to both the tariff issue and the Fed issue. We have so many former Treasury secretaries. Everybody's trying to figure out what's really going on. Everyone's a little worried about whether the numbers are even going to be real in the future. What do you think?
Well, I think we're kind of driving the car with 2 feet, 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake. On the gas, we've got good tax policy that's pro-growth. We've got regulatory relief coming, and we've got this AI boom that's going to be great for productivity. On the brake, tariff uncertainty, and a debt crisis on the horizon, which is going to mess with interest rates. So I think all of that combustible mixture is giving people cause for concern. The latest job numbers weren't so good. So I think that's what we're talking about. And the whole point of this conference is, what do you do to revive American prosperity and continue it? So, there's definitely a tariff discussion that's happening.
There's a huge tariff discussion. How big a deal do you think that is right now?
I think it's the biggest deal right now of anything that's out there. It's the uncertainty.
And do you believe that the market has tariffs actually built in, or do you think the market believes there's still an opportunity or a moment that this administration will pull the bill?
I think the market thinks that. I don't think that that's the case.
Okay, so you think let's just break that, unpack that.
Yeah.
You think the market?
I think the market thinks everything's going to be calm soon, and I just don't.
Calm, and that what the tariffs are going to go away?
No, they're just going to settle into some easy, predictable place, and I just don't think that that's going to happen. Why do I think that? I think it's more than likely that the Supreme Court knocks out IEEPA, the law that's being used for these tariffs, which doesn't have the word tariff in it. Then the president's going to have to go to other laws to justify tariffs. 232, 201, 301. There's a bunch of laws. Those are harder laws to operate with. They're dual tracking it right now. So you have these agreements. I spent a lot of time on trade agreements. That's what one of my jobs in Congress was at Ways and Means. And these agreements could be a little upended if he loses in court. Then he's going to have to revive a tariff. Plus, I think they justify tariffs based on trade deficits. I don't think that's the way to go. But then they threw a tariff on Brazil at 50%, and we have a trade surplus with Brazil. So there's no sort of rationale for this other than, just the president wanting to raise tariffs based upon his whims, his opinions. And so I think choppy waters are ahead because I think they're going to have some legal challenges. And so I think it's going to be a while before this settles in. I think the market would like to see a predictable tariff policy that settles in.
I think in long term, there's a permanence to these tariffs because the other issue is up here, which is once you put them in, the revenue becomes part of the budget.
I think that's right. Actually, if you remember, Kevin Brady and I were pushing the border adjustment tax before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which now was made permanent. And we always knew we were going to end up with the tax law we have today. But our ideal policy was a border adjustment tax. This actually gets you closer to that. So I do think you're going to see, let's just say $300 billion of revenue from tariffs. It's going to be pretty hard for the next president to turn that off or walk away from that because that next president could be just as protectionist. Joe Biden didn't take these tariffs off when he became president. But the problem is, I think tariffs are the wrong way to go. It makes you unproductive. It lowers living standards. It's bad for our industries long term. Good short-term politics, bad long-term economics. But the tax base is looking more like what we would call a border adjustment tax. We have full expensing permanent, and we're getting this tariff revenue from trade deficits. You could actually parlay this into a cash flow border adjustment tax, and it would be far superior, economically speaking, than this tariff uncertainty. That's to me a long-term way out of these woods. But I do think we're going to have tariffs for a while, and I think the government's going to see this revenue, and with the deficits we have, it's going to be hard to turn that off.
What about the Fed? How concerned, or are you, or not?
No, I'm not. I think the Kevins are great. I don't want to.
Which Kevin do you like?
I'm not going to say that because I don't want to hurt either of these people. I think Waller. I think the people that he's considering are qualified people. They'd all be good Fed chairs, and I think I'm not too worried about this.
But the whole idea that whoever this next Fed chair.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining us at our next investor webinar, where you can drill deeper into our 9 to 13% annual interest rate bond offerings and see how our company has become an emerging leader in the oil and gas industry. In 2024, Phoenix Energy rose to become the 11th most prolific oil and gas operator in the Williston Basin, one of America's top producing regions. We are now right alongside industry giants like ConocoPhillips.
Whoever this next Fed chair is has to effectively pledge either loyalty or just the idea that they are going to lower interest rates, right? Oh, the market.
We should be lowering interest rates. We're going into an interest rate cutting environment. So,
do you think we're late? Do you think the Powell is too late at this point?
I don't know. I don't think I'm qualified to say that. I think the tariff uncertainty is still a thing, and I think it's wise to wait for that. But with the latest labor market activity, I think September is the right time. But look, you got cash carry coming up. You asked Neil about that. My point is, we have an independent Federal Reserve. We have a Humphrey Hawkins law. I spent a lot of time in this law that makes an independent Fed. The president's going to do what he's going to do. We're still going to have an independent Fed. I'm not worried about that changing. Right? That law is not going to change. That takes 60 votes in the Senate. That's not going to happen. And all these people they're looking at for Fed chair are qualified people. So, and plus, if we were having to go into an interest increasing environment and we were at this posture, I'd be a little worried. But we're going into an interest rate cutting environment anyway. So I'm just not worried about its independence ultimately being
okay.
threatened.
You're a data guy. You like numbers. BLS. You saw that last Friday and you thought what?
It's more than an eye-rolling exercise. I Googled Bill Beach. Bill Beach is for Republicans. He's impeccable conservative Republican economic credentials. He was Trump 1's BLS administrator, and he said this is absolutely groundless. So I would look at what Bill Beach said, Trump's first BLS administrator, and echo his sentiments. I think the story goes away if they replace her, I forgot her name, with like a legitimate person. If they put a political hack in there, then this is going to be really troubling. But if they put somebody who's qualified in there, the story probably goes away. But yeah, I think it was a norm-breaking episode, and we have a lot of those these days.
Are you surprised that there haven't been more people speaking out about that?
No, because it's the BLS. I mean, how many of us pay attention to BLS? I mean, they have to fix their surveys. There's some issues with the way the household survey works, and there's work to be done there. But that it is so out of the mainstream, no one thinks about the BLS except for geeks who pay attention to this stuff.
I got a different one for you. One of the things, and Joe and I were talking about earlier, we were showing some tape of Brian Moynihan responding to the president. You know, the president has an executive order around this idea that banks have been discriminating against conservative curious as somebody who's a conservative, whether you think that's true.
If it's true, it's absolutely outrageous. And so they ought to be able to fix this with regulations to make sure that that doesn't happen. If you're debanking someone based on their political beliefs, it's totally outrageous. I don't know to what extent that has happened, if it's happened. I don't know the answer.
Well, that's the question. No, in the circles you travel,
I've not heard that in the circle that in Wisconsin. I live in Janesville, Wisconsin. I've not heard that that happens to conservatives, but maybe it is. I don't know, but this ought to be settled pretty easily through, clear regulations.
But I think part of what's happened, and this is what we were discussing, is there are industries where maybe more conservatives have sort of flowed into them. Crypto, for example, the gun industry and the like. And so I think what was happening prior was the banks that have the regulations, obviously around ESG, or either around reputational risks or anti-money laundering. And so there was a concern about that with crypto. And so that was what I think.
Yeah, there was some ESG stuff on that. If you remember, I forgot what Sam Brownback's organization is called, but there was a religious freedom organization that got debanked. So there were episodes of this. So now that you say it, I do recall some episodes of conservatives being debanked, and that's wrong. Right, and that should not happen in the future.
Separately, I want to ask you to respond to this, because yesterday in Aspen, I talked to the former Treasury Secretary, Stephen Mnuchin, about President Trump's plans to issue dividends to Americans from the tariff revenue. And this is what he had to say about it.
I'd like to see it as deficit reduction. I think, many of us are concerned about the size of the deficit, and there's really only two ways of dealing with that. One is growing the economy, and two is creating more revenues. So, no, we should be using the tariff revenue for deficit reduction.
Okay, so, agree. Yeah, you'd have to go through Congress to do that anyway, and I just don't see that. Literally, this the way you do it, go through reconciliation. This is not viable. So he can't just do it. He'd have to go through Congress.
We were trying to ask him about how he would do it yesterday. He didn't really answer that question.
You would have to. We did rebates before. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a fan of these Keynesian stimulus programs. But Steve's right. It should go toward deficit reduction.
And then finally, I wanted to ask you about some comments Bassett made. He said they were misconstrued last week, but around Social Security and these new bonds that effectively the baby bonds that are going to happen, and whether long term you wouldn't need Social Security.
Well, I spent a lot of time on this issue as well. No, you still need Social Security. I'm sure Scott didn't mean that. The Social Security is insolvent in 2032. There's a big problem. There's about a 26% benefit cut across the board that happens when that occurs. We need to get ahead of that. And the best way to do that is to grow. My kids are going to get a negative 1% rate of return on their Social Security taxes. So we ought to be able to reform the program so they can get a better rate of return. Right. These bonds won't be enough to replace that. But we should reform the program so that it can get better returns for future retirees in a package that actually saves it from insolvency.
You can make all the money you want in the world, but you'll never get the respect and admiration you deserve until you get shredded. Look at Bezos, one of the richest men.
Artificial intelligence is presenting a real challenge to the American workforce. A fresh new report shows more than 10,000 jobs have been cut so far this year due to the rise of generative AI in private companies. Bank of America's CEO talked about the impact of AI on job growth on Face the Nation Sunday.
AI gives you a place to go that we've never been able to go before. In other words, there are jobs that take text, think about it, and produce many jobs on a company, our research team. Now you're able to maybe use a machine to enhance that activity. So we believe that people harness AI for the benefit will be very successful.
CBS News Money Watch reporter Megan Cerullo joined us now in studio to talk about all of this. Megan, good morning. A warm welcome. Great to have you here. So 10,000 jobs lost. You also wonder, are any jobs being created? But which roles are most at risk right now? Who's really being hit hardest?
We've been talking for a while now about AI's potential to take over jobs. It's no longer a possibility or likelihood, it's a reality. This new report from Challenger Brighteon Christmas, an outplacement firm, shows that so far this year, so the first 7 months of 2025, employers cut 10,000 jobs and they attributed those cuts directly to AI. Not surprisingly, a lot of the job cuts are concentrated in the tech sector because AI is good at things like coding. It's also good at the kinds of rote, repetitive tasks that are usually associated with entry-level work, which is making it harder for some recent college graduates to land their first jobs out of school.
I mean, for Gen Z and I guess younger millennials, they have just had a really tough time with the world. I mean, if they're just now graduating or they've just started at a new job and they're in the tech sector, which they have been told forever is going to bring them riches and success, what are they experiencing right now?
Right. Well, some of them might be having concentration remorse. By that, I mean regretful for having concentrated in these subjects that they thought would provide them a lot of opportunities for jobs. What they're finding is, according to the One Career platform, job postings for recent college grads are down 15%. Meanwhile, applications for those same jobs are up 30%.
Wow.
So they're finding that it's even harder. It was hard to begin with. It's even harder to land that first job out of school.
Now, you mentioned this report specifically cites AI as the reason for the job losses, but we talk so much about government cuts, tariffs as well, all these other forces on the economy. How much of that is also weighing down people?
There are a lot of, like you said, there are a lot of factors at play here, and it's not fair to attribute all of these cuts to AI because we have tariffs and policy and economic uncertainty, which is weighing on businesses. And they are saying that that's causing them to pause investment and pause hiring decisions because they're anticipating that their own costs are going to go up. And where's a good place to cut costs? On labor. So they're cutting back on hiring and they're laying workers off. In the retail industry, for example, goods importers are anticipating having to pay higher costs on a lot of their imports. And that's going to affect their bottom lines and in turn affect hiring.
Yeah, tough situation for so many people, but they should follow your reporting. I know you also give advice on what you can do with this brand new world we're in. Megan Swirler, great to have you with us this Tuesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Imagine being able to build any.
OpenAI kickstarted the artificial intelligence arms race with the explosive debut of ChatGPT in late 2022, turning the startup into a $300 billion company and founder Sam Altman into a household name. Joining us right now is tech journalist Karen Howe, whose latest book is out today. It's called Empire of AI, Dreams and Nightmares in Sam Altman's OpenAI. The book is a culmination of over 300 interviews conducted over the last 7 years. Karen, thanks a lot for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
You were writing about OpenAI before anybody had any idea what this was. Your first take on them was 2019. How did you find them and what did you think?
I was a reporter at MIT Technology Review at the time covering the cutting edge research in AI. So at the time, OpenAI was a fundamental AI research lab, and that was why I was tracking them. And what I realized was they were originally founded as a nonprofit, but they were quickly starting to develop commercial intent. They were starting to become competitive and secretive. And that had ramifications for not only the AI world, but potentially the way that AI would be introduced into society all around the world.
What's your biggest concern of the ramifications of that?
The way that Silicon Valley and OpenAI leading the charge has really approached AI development is very much an embodiment of the way Silicon Valley has developed technology over the last decade, which is growth at all costs. They have really chosen to pursue AI models that are extraordinarily large. They require a lot of data, a lot of labor, a lot of computational resources, which has environmental implications. And my greatest concern is that we are pursuing a path of AI development that is extremely harmful to a lot of people around the world.
In terms of jobs?
In terms of jobs, in terms of their environmental health, their ability to access economic opportunity, to access quality information. And AI is a beneficial technology if we can also mitigate all of the ways that the supply chain of the current.
One is worse than the other at the moment.
Yeah, so there are many different types of AI technology.
But you see, is there a line at which you say to yourself, this is actually going to improve people's lives? It's going to improve productivity to a level where it's going to create economic efficiencies, going to create opportunities, all sorts of things? Or do you see that that's a sort of a fantasy?
No, so I think There are AI technologies that tackle very specific challenges and are well scoped. That is very different from general AI technologies that are supposedly meant to do anything. If we can target AI toward problems that AI is very good for, optimization problems, computational problems, healthcare, towards integrating more renewables into the grid. These are things that AI is very good at. They are also well scoped, so it's not nebulous how you should be applying AI in that situation. But right now, these Silicon Valley companies are trying to make everything machines. And when you're trying to make everything machines, not only are they not going to be high quality in everything, people are going to have a fundamental misunderstanding about how they should be using these technologies, and inevitably it is going to harm them.
Karen, you're one of a number of books that have been written about Sam Altman and OpenAI. Your book was not written with Altman's cooperation. In fact, you wrote something on X recently that's kind of backhanded criticism. You said, there are some books coming out about OpenAI and me. We only participated in 2. No book will get everything right, especially when some people are so intent on twisting things. What happened? Why didn't he cooperate? Because you've known him for a while.
Yeah, because when I published my very first profile for MIT Technology Review, they gave me a lot of access. I embedded within the company for 3 days, and they were extremely not happy that I drew my own conclusions. And so ever since then, I've had a very fraught relationship with the company where I've continued to do my reporting. I've continued to get insider sourcing. I've continued to really grapple with their technology because of my background. I ultimately have a really good understanding of the research and its capabilities. But at the end of the day, OpenAI didn't want to participate in my book.
What did you hear from
Every day you wait to make that hire, your competitors get another step ahead. With somewhere.com, we can fill your role in days, not
in my book.
What did you hear from insiders that concerns you that maybe they didn't like? What types of things? So there are some people who say, you know, if you listen to Elon Musk or others who are very familiar with this, they think it's the equivalent of like nuclear weapons and this could end the world.
Right, that's definitely a view. So one example that I heard with respect to the amount of computational resources that are now being used in the supercomputers that they have to build, one employee told me, we are running out of land and energy. The scale at which they're building the models, they actually have run out of places to put the size of the supercomputers that they need, because there is no place in the world where utilities can deliver that much power to one location.
I mean, that's been pretty well documented, the concern about getting more power, but we also have the increase in technology that seems to get better and better and better over time. So maybe there's a way to shrink the needs for the computational power.
That is, I think that's exactly, you know, like when you look at other supply chains in history, you know, the fashion supply chain, there were plenty of challenges with the fashion industry. The solution was not to just not wear clothes, right? You still need to have fashion, but we really need to shore up the supply chain in order to access the benefits.
I was going to ask you about the fascinating relationship that OpenAI has with Microsoft. Some people questioning whether that partnership is framed. The news yesterday that Elon Musk's Grok, I don't know if you saw, is now going to be in partnership with Microsoft.
Yeah.
Going to run on Azure. You saw Satya Nadella doing effectively a video cast with Elon. That's fascinating, given the fact that Elon has been attacking OpenAI and frankly attacking Microsoft, oddly enough, for the last 2 years.
And Sam Altman.
And that's, by the way, that's not the first time that Nadella has done that. He also hired Mustafa Suleyman to lead Microsoft's AI efforts. And Mustafa Suleyman was a DeepMind co-founder, and DeepMind was one of the original rivals of OpenAI.
So, okay, so
Is my enemy is my friend, or I'll work with anybody who's the best in the business?
Well, I think that Nadella has realized that putting all of his eggs in one basket with OpenAI is not the best strategy, in part because of the blip, as employees call it, which was the board crisis that fired and then rehired Altman in a span of 5 days. But also because OpenAI doesn't necessarily have a research lead anymore in its capabilities for its models. It certainly has a lead in household name recognition, but as I talk with application developers who are using these AI models every day, they're making their models, their platforms, AI vendor agnostic, because they don't actually think there is a clear leader anymore. And I think Nadella is a very smart business person.
If you were to project out 2 or 3 years from now, and we've got Microsoft stock price up on the screen, That's a company that's had a lot of success, in part because of the OpenAI relationship, this idea that it is ahead of everybody else, given that relationship. What does that relationship look like? Does Microsoft and Mustafa create their own large language models? Are all these things so commoditized that they're worthless? What happens?
They're definitely trying to develop their own in-house models. They're also trying to strike up as many partnerships as possible with other types of models so that they can all be on the Azure platform. And Microsoft can then offer to any customer that's using Azure, here, you full array of options. Pick which one's best for you.
You don't use ChatGPT. Do you not use other?
I do not.
Open source models either. Do you not use any?
I don't use generative AI models that are developed by companies that I think are engaging in a lot of environmental, social, and labor harms at the moment.
Do you know of any that aren't?
There are some that are more open source, that are more transparent, that are really trying to develop a better understanding.
What are you talking about?
Hugging Face, open source technology platform. They don't develop their own well, sometimes they do, but they're primarily a platform for bringing generative AI models onto the platform. But their primary goal is to try and help people like scientists, public researchers, policymakers be able to understand the technology, because in other environments like OpenAI and Anthropic, it's completely behind closed doors.
This is the quickest way to clear out.
This show is completely unscripted. So the advertisement that popped up right after the show, the clip with CNBC and the AI author was a gut issue advertisement. I'll tell you, this show is so there's so much serendipity that happens with it. All right, so please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take this stack. The stack that I'm going to show here is going to help with your cardiovascular health and your immune system. It's something that you should be doing every day. It's super important. You get a lot of benefit from this stack, and it's the third pillar of the core protocol. Now, taking turmeric is going to soak up free radicals. It's going to bring down inflammation. It's also going to help to boost up that immune system and help with your vascular system. By bringing down inflammation at the vascular level, you're reducing plaque formation. Ashwagandha root is going to help to bring down cortisol levels and help to control your blood glucose levels. At the vascular level, that's going to bring down inflammation. And overall, systemically, you're going to bring down inflammation. Therefore, it's going to help with your vascular system and your immune system, respectively. Lignans helps with your immune system and your endocrine system. It's a powder. You mix it with soft foods or with filtered water. And with lignans, you're also going to be able to soak up free radicals. So by stacking the turmeric, the ashwagandha, and the lignans together, it's a very, very, very powerful stack to bring down inflammation and help boost up that immune system, help with your cardiovascular system. So this is a powerful stack that everyone should be taking every day. Now, I have a very high quality toothpaste. Get a few tubes for your household. This will help to whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, help with the gum health and your gum line, reduce inflammation. This is really important. It's a very high quality. It's the best toothpaste that you're going to get. It's made with structural nanosilver. It has no fluoride. Very high quality. Get a few tubes for your household. And gels. I have two types of gels, in the tube form and in the quick dispenser. Now you can use this as a daily skincare. You can use it as an aftershave. If you're not feeling well or someone around you is not feeling well, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your eyes, around your nose, around your ears, lightly coat your nostrils, stays active for 5.5 hours. It also couples really well with collagen and vitamin C for skincare. You can use it as an aftershave. So it's a dual purpose product. Have some at home and at work. You never know when you need it. Trust me, you're gonna need it. And lastly, lozenges and drops. I have in stock the elderberry zinc lozenges in a 21 count. And I also have in stock for drops in a 100 count. Honey and lemon, cherry, and also in blueberry. So go to my store, law-studio-reykjavik.com, and use discount 5. You get $5 off any order. You spend $100 or more, I'll give you a free gift. Until supplies last.
This 2-second edema flush could transform your legs, ankles, and feet. Even top doctors are baffled. Turns out, this proven method clears the hidden clog.
Moving now to artificial intelligence and anxiety around its impact on the job market only increasing, already leading to some major shifts in our workforce. Artificial intelligence disrupting giants like management consultant McKinsey and Company at an existential level already, with the tech increasingly doing much of the work highly paid consultants used to do on an often much faster timeline. And for the younger workforce like Gen Z, the entrance of AI steering them towards very different jobs than were popular before. News Nation's Mills Hayes has more on this. And Mills, how is Gen Z reevaluating what a good career looks like?
Hi, Natasha. No question that AI is affecting every industry in America. You mentioned that management consultant group, McKinsey. They wrote a study about 2 years ago that found that 30% of the things that you do at work right now could be automated in the next 3 years, which is why more young people are shifting to blue collar jobs.
AI isn't going to take over the hard skills. Okay, AI can take the soft skills. That's why you see, people in white collar jobs, some of them are losing their positions because AI can now do their job.
Cameron Vogelslang is
That's true. Until AI is integrated in humanoids. And then all jobs, no matter what it is, can be replaced by AI human.
In Tennessee, who believes there's more to offer in blue collar work than people think, especially with the rise of AI. But one firm found that the adoption of AI resulted in more than 10,000 lost jobs in the month of July alone. In fact, 65% of Gen Z believe their college degree will not protect them from AI-related job loss. More than half of Gen Z workers say they're now seriously considering blue-collar or skilled trade work. Vogelsang travels the country with Energize US EDU. They hope to reshape the perception of skilled trades in America.
The Gen Z, while there is an opportunity and people are interested in joining the trades, there's also these stigmas that shun people away from the trades. They don't want to be unhealthy. They don't want to be overweight.
But it's not just AI taking jobs. It's screening resumes and preventing people from even getting an interview. People like Derek Mobley, who was unemployed and searching for a job for 2 years.
I've, tried remote jobs, in-person jobs, different industries. And if it had the workday branding associated with it, either I would not hear back at all, or the answer was no. There was never a maybe.
Mobley filed a lawsuit claiming Workday's AI-powered hiring tools discriminated against people on age, race, and mental health.
What are the chances that someone will be rejected 100% of the time? That just didn't make sense to me just from a common sense perspective.
Workday says Mobley's claims have no merit, but a federal judge ruled the lawsuit could go forward as a nationwide collective action focusing on discrimination in age. As for AI, it's not going anywhere. Handshake found that the use of AI in job descriptions increased by 400% in the last 2 years, Natasha.
It is staggering. Mills Hayes live in studio with that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.
I'm sandwiched between the two generations. I'm helping to give caregiver responsibilities to my dad and then my son, who's just out of college.
In just 2 days, President Trump's sweeping tariffs on goods across the globe are officially set to take effect. Their implementation has the director of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, telling the American people to relax, that the quote tariff uncertainty period is behind us. But for a lot of business owners, the future is still very much uncertain as they navigate this new economic era, trying to figure out exactly what it means for their businesses, their employees, their livelihoods moving forward. One Detroit auto supplier says he's going to have to lay off employees and close a warehouse because of the president's tariffs. Joining us now is the CEO of Detroit Axle, Mike Mushanish. Mike, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I really appreciate it. You have a family-owned business. I believe your dad started it. You took over. Walk people through the impact on your business right now.
The impact has been extreme. I mean, I'd like to put it in context here. The first Trump administration, he levied tariffs. Back then, if we were to receive $1 million in products, we would pay $25,000 in tariffs. And today, for the same $1 million in products, we're looking at paying $725,000 in tariffs to the federal government.
Wow.
Incredibly devastating.
So what does that mean for you practically?
Practically, it's you try to source products from different countries. So in a drop of a dime, it's almost impossible to do, but we've done so. So we went to India, pure product from there, trying to save our consumers money. And now India is hit with tariffs. I mean, auto parts are the most heavily tariff commodity out there at 72.5%. Also, we had operation in Mexico where we leveraged the de minimis exemption. And that also, a drop of a hat, gone. So everywhere we turn, we're starting to see more and more roadblocks. So it's been quite discouraging.
And so where does this leave you? You may have to lay people off. Are you worried about keeping your business?
Well, of course. I mean, our people that work for us are the ones who make the company. I'd like to say that when we gave the notice to the state of Michigan, we started to draft it back in May. Now, I mean, the world has changed. We've seen that our industry as a whole has increased price dramatically. We've seen that other competitors, perhaps, smaller or medium-sized competitors, have actually exited the market. So as it stands now, we've picked up more customers than ever before because of the woes of others. So now we don't plan to lay off anybody just because of the simple fact that there's been dozens and dozens that exited the market already prior to us even considering it. So yeah, it's challenging times for many distributors and manufacturers since we also produce product, and that's also costing us more for the internal components to produce.
I'm curious if you could speak to President Trump. What would you tell him?
I'm a supporter of the idea of reshoring our industry back to the U.S. I mean, it gets to the point where there's absolutely nothing produced here in this country, which is very dangerous. So setting the atmosphere and the environment conducive for entrepreneurs to be able to build and produce is important. And having the federal government help initiate that is very important. But none of that was done. All that I see done was just you slam the tariff button. And I mean, once upon a time, 3 months ago, we were paying $600,000-$700,000 in tariffs, and now we're north of $7 million a month in tariffs. So all that revenue that was once used for investments and machinery and employment is all gone, and Uncle Sam owns it. So give us time, set the environment, so we can produce this products here, and we're ready to serve it, the president.
Look, oftentimes the president himself they said there's going to be short-term pain, that they believe long-term this will be better, that it really won't be that bad, or that the customers aren't going to have to pay for this, or even if they do, it won't be that bad. It won't be that bad for small business owners. But what you're describing sounds quite challenging.
Now, of course, I mean, we run on small margins. The factories we procure from run on small margins. So who's left to pick up the tab? Except for
Alright.
food.
Right. All right, Mike, thank you so much. Good luck to you. Really appreciate your time.
The Trump administration, when they launched these tariffs, talked about two things. One, manufacturing, bringing those jobs back. They also talked about their concerns about immigration, for example, and having leverage over other countries in that conversation, and jobs here at home. Does the data give any indication on where they are making progress on those issues?
Yeah, that's a good question. To separate them out a little bit, the decline of manufacturing jobs is part of a longer term trend, and quite a normal one because the sector keeps getting more and more productive over time. But manufacturing jobs had essentially flatlined, for about a half a year going into Liberation Day. And since then, they've actually resumed their slide. So the explicit call for more manufacturing jobs as the basis, as the rationale for the tariffs, that simply hasn't worked out. I think the sector has lost some 30 or 40,000 jobs roughly in the last 4 months. In terms of immigration, this is interesting because it's worth noting that for all the attention that's been given to deportations and undocumented immigration, it's also the case that we're putting up barriers to legal immigration. And so preliminary, and everything is preliminary at this point, estimates are that net immigration levels are going to fall this year and possibly next year. And that does have an effect on the economy. It means that the labor force isn't going to be as big as it otherwise would have been. And eventually that also strains the capacity of the overall economy to grow as well. So that is absolutely something that I think, requires a little bit more attention, and it's going to be worth following.
All right, Cardiff, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thanks, Audie. A pleasure.
President Trump says he will most likely have a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping before the end of the year, unless they fail to reach a trade agreement. He says he's optimistic about making a deal with China, but that it's not imperative. Meantime, Trump says he'll increase tariffs on India, quote, very substantially in the next 24 hours, from a timeline than he has threatened previously. Last week, Trump said he'd impose a minimum 25% tariff on goods from India, set to take effect by the end of this week. Earlier on CNBC, he voiced his displeasure with India buying Russian oil.
We do very, very little business.
One day, you won't have to assemble the entire creative team for every new little request. Are they all wearing hats indoors? But before that,
We do very, very little business with India because their tariffs are so high. So India has not been a good trading partner because they do a lot of business with us, but we don't do business with them. So we settled on 25%, but I think I'm going to raise that very substantially over the next 24 hours because they're buying Russian oil, they're fueling the war machine. And if they're going to do that, then I'm not going to be happy.
Well, it's good to see CNN business and politics correspondent Vanessa Ukevich. Great to see you, Vanessa. So Trump there, of course, threatening secondary sanctions on India if it continues to buy Russian oil, but also saying that he's very close to a trade deal with China. What can you tell us?
Yeah, and he says that if a trade deal is reached with China, then he will meet with the Chinese president later this year, but saying if there's no deal, that meeting is off the table, but certainly signaling that there has been progress. He says they have a good relationship with China. If you remember, we are coming up on that 90-day pause expiration on August 12th. We started 90 days ago with the US and China lowering tariff rates to 30% and 10% respectively. And there was that meeting last week between US and Chinese trade representatives in Stockholm. No details in terms of inching closer to a deal. We did hear from US trade representatives who said that there's still more work to be done on rare earth minerals, making sure those are coming out of China. China controls about 95% of production, and they're used for things like computers, electric vehicles, military aircraft. Also, they're wanting to make sure that China moves away from being a manufacturing economy, so talking about exports, and moving towards a consumer economy, moving closer to imports. But that August 12th date is obviously coming up very soon. Listen, tariffs could certainly rise dramatically, but all indications are that that deadline actually may be moved yet again. So there's more time, Linda, for the two sides to work out a trade deal.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight Formula. Goodnight Formula has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA and passion flower. It's going to help you get into those 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep so you can detoxify your central nervous system, consolidate memory, and be well rested. Super important to have a good sleep regularly to slow down the aging process. And you can stack it with omega-3. Omega-3 helps with your vascular health. Omega-3 brings down systemic inflammation and helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. So you're improving your total cholesterol. By helping with your lipid profile and bringing down inflammation, you're reducing the chances of plaque formation. Stacking these together, you're helping with your brain health and your cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get that stack. Another great stack that I have is digestive enzyme complex. Helps to break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. Very important if you're 40 years of age or older to reduce the load on your pancreas. And by taking digestive enzyme complex, you're going to be able to absorb your nutrients, reduce the load on that pancreas, and have an easier digestive process so you can absorb your food. In addition, if you're an athlete and you're taking pre or post-workout fueling, taking digestive enzyme complex is going to help you to digest that fuel source. So please make sure you get the digestive enzyme complex. Very important to take. Also, if you're 40 years of age or older, Myotrol will help with the gene expression to build muscle. So when you're doing some workout, taking Myotrol, you're going to be able to express those genes to be able to produce the muscle and maintain that muscle. When you get older, you start to atrophy. To reduce that, you do resistance training and take Myotrol. Myotrol has polyphenols, lignans, and flavonoids to help with the gene expression for building muscle. Myotrol also stacks really well with gladiator barley and boomer boost that I'll talk about a little bit later. But a great stack is to take the Myotrol and the digestive enzymes. And also olive leaf extract. Olive leaf extract is dual purpose. It's going to bring down inflammation, and it's also going to help with your lipid profile. So that means that you're going to help with your immune system and your cardiovascular system. So you're helping with your cardiovascular system and your immune system. Digestive enzyme complex is helping with your pancreatic health and be able to digest better your proteins, lipids, and carbohydrates. And Myotrol helps to build muscle. So you're helping with your muscle, your pancreatic health, your digestive health, and your immune system, and your cardiovascular system. Very important stack. So please go to my store, use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. And if you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. All right, let's go to this breaking news that happened last night about the Clintons summoned to testify about Epstein.
Teenagers are building businesses with AI, while the only AI you know is ChatGPT. Let's be real. Most people over 40 use ChatGPT.
But first, breaking tonight, the House committee investigating documents surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein case is now going after some big names. The committee has issued subpoenas to former President Bill Clinton, former presidential nominee Hillary Clinton, and several top law enforcement officials. Also tonight, former Deputy Chief of Staff to then President Biden appeared voluntarily before the same House panel probing an alleged cover-up of President Biden's mental health. Senior national correspondent Aisha Hasni reports from Capitol Hill tonight on these two investigations. Good evening, Aisha.
Greg, good evening to you. You know, the Biden investigation really divided Democrats and Republicans, but Republicans now say this fresh Epstein probe is such a bipartisan effort that even the Clintons may not be able to escape it. Tonight, former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton are facing congressional subpoenas to testify in person about Jeffrey Epstein. The House Oversight Committee summoning the Clintons and 8 former FBI directors and attorneys general spanning from the Bush era to the Biden White House. The historic move comes as pressure grows on Republicans and the Trump administration to release the Epstein files And as President Trump points his finger away from himself.
I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times.
Clinton has denied that, but Oversight Chairman James Comer tells Fox he's got questions.
Well, were you ever at Epstein Island? How many times did you go to Epstein Island? What was your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
No former president has ever come to the Hill for a deposition, but Comer says the Clintons will have a hard time dodging this one since the left wants answers too. Last week, 4 Democrats on an oversight panel voted with 3 Republicans to subpoena the Justice Department for the Epstein files. Democrats are looking for one name.
Donald Trump is clearly going to do everything that he can to minimize the impact to him, but yet he's involved in the cover-up, and we believe Republicans are helping in that right now.
That investigation gets underway as another pushes ahead.
Mr. Reed, did you think that the president was competent to serve?
Former Biden Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Bruce Reed sitting in for his closed-door interview today over the alleged cover-up of President Biden's decline. Reed was part of a small group of decision-makers who hid Biden, according to the book Original Sin, advisors who have all so far defended Biden's competency to be the commander-in-chief. And Brett, tonight, a source familiar with Reed's deposition tells us that he basically defended the former president, blamed his poor debate performance on his stutter, and said the White House physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who pled the fifth during his deposition, basically dismissed any cognitive tests as merely meaningless. The next person that is set to appear before the committee is Senior Communications Advisor Anita Dunn this Thursday. Brett.
Actually, back on the Epstein case, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell trying to stop the DOJ from releasing the grand jury transcripts in her case.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the Trump administration is trying to make this public to show the base and to show people out there that they are taking this case very seriously. But Maxwell's lawyer essentially filed a motion today opposing those files from being released because she is appealing her case all the way to the Supreme Court. Her team writes this: Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Ghislaine Maxwell is not. Whatever interest the public may have in Epstein, that interest cannot justify a broad intrusion into grand jury secrecy. Now, I will say, though, it's noteworthy that Epstein victim Annie Farmer says that she does want these transcripts released as long as the victims' names, of course, are redacted. Brett?
Aisha Housing Live on Capitol Hill. Aisha, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe. Meanwhile, we still have bioweapon labs open for business. But so many people care about the Epstein file so much. It's a shame that more people out there weren't more concerned about bioweapon labs than the Epstein Island. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the resveratrol. Resveratrol is something I've been taking for decades. Resveratrol is an antioxidant, so it's going to soak up free radicals, help with the health of the mitochondria. You're going to have more energy. Resveratrol helps with youthful gene expression and get rid of cells that are in senescence. Resveratrol stacks really well with C60, NAD+, ubiquinol, clarity factor. It's a great supplement to take, and you get the max benefit when you stack it with the items that I just mentioned. Now, one of those items are ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can purchase. You can't get anything better than this. So go to my store and get the ubiquinol. Ubiquinol, again, the most bioavailable form of CoQ10. Now, ubiquinol is multi-purposed. It's going to help to soak up free radicals. This is an antioxidant. It's going to help the health of the mitochondria so you have more energy. It'll help to protect neurons. Very important. And also, ubiquinol stacks well with red yeast rice. So if you're trying to bring down your lipid profile and you're on red yeast rice, you need to take CoQ10 as a supplement because your CoQ10 levels start to go down when you take red yeast rice. So you want to boost those up. So this is a great way to supplement if you are on red yeast rice. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the ubiquinol, get the resveratrol, great stack. Use discount 5. Another great stack to help with your cardiovascular health and for your bone density. Let's talk about bone density for a minute here. Vitamin D3, gene expression cofactor, very important. Helps to get rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis, really important when cells are infected. D3 helps to absorb calcium. It works even better when you take magnesium. Now, D3, by absorbing calcium, doing resistance training, you're going to help to build bone density. And at higher doses of vitamin D3 and K2 and doing resistance training and taking calcium, you can actually reverse osteoarthritis. I'll do a show about that. That's what I did when I had osteoarthritis when I was doing triathlons. So I don't have osteoarthritis anymore. So D3 and K2 work really well together. The MK7 molecule is what you want. So the vitamin K2, MK7 molecule with D3, taking calcium and doing resistance training is going to allow you to build bone density. If you take the vitamin D3 at higher doses for about 9 months, 7 to 9 months, and do light resistance training on the joint that has the osteoarthritis, then over time, you're going to actually heal that joint. Now, vitamin D3 and K2, again, allows you to absorb the calcium. You do the resistance training, and over time, within about 5 years, you have denser bone. Right? Every year you'll get denser bone, but your bones remodel every 5 years. All right. So you need to do this on a regular basis over a 5-year period, and you can reverse osteopenia and osteoporosis. But if you let it go too far with osteoporosis, it's going to take much longer time to be able to remodel the bone. So it's better to catch it early. So take the D3 and the vitamin K2, take the calcium supplements or drinking milk and do resistance training to help with bone density. Now, D3 and K2 also help to pull out some of that calcium depositing around plaque in your vascular system. So you can help with your vascular system by taking D3 and vitamin K2. In addition, if you take nattokinase, it's fibrinolytic. So that's going to help with your vascular system. Also, nattokinase helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. When you do that, you have a better lipid profile, you're reducing plaque formation. Stack them together, and it's a great way to help with your cardiovascular health. So D3, K2, nattokinase, great for vascular health. D3 with K2 also helps with bone density. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5. You get $5 off any order. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last.
At Sprint, we print all the signs that help your small business stand out. We print tabletops that get your brand seen up close, and retractable banners that stop everyone in it.
This day 198.
Okay, so this is MSNBC talking about the Epstein fiasco. Now, again, remember, America needs to know this, even though America didn't do anything about the bioweapon labs. They're still functioning, but everyone's titillated about the Epstein files. I think people need to get their important subject matters in order. You need to focus on the right stuff. This Epstein stuff is bullshit. But I'm going to play it anyways because guess what? Everyone wants to know, but no one wants to do anything about the bioweapon labs.
Trump administration. And this evening, there is a lot happening in the story of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Donald Trump's White House. The Department of Justice is considering releasing the audio transcript or both of the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's interview with Maxwell. That is according to an official familiar with the matter. Another source telling NBC News that the transcripts could be released as early as this week. Well, today the president was asked about that very interview and Maxwell's controversial transfer last week to a minimum security prison camp down in Texas, and watch his response.
Were you aware of and did you personally approve the prison transfer for Ghislaine Maxwell that your Justice Department?
I didn't know about it at all. No, I read about it just like you did.
And do you believe that she's?
It's not a very uncommon thing.
Do you believe that she's credible to be listening to? Your Deputy Attorney General sat down with her recently.
Well, let me tell you, he's a very talented man. His name is Todd Blanche. He's a very legitimate person. I didn't discuss it with him, but anything he talked about with her or the fact that he did that, not unusual, number one, and most importantly is something that would be totally above board.
Meanwhile, the Department of Justice wants 5 days of grand jury testimony in the Epstein and Maxwell cases released. Right now, the government is still considering whether they will press for more to be unsealed. Well, victims of Epstein and Maxwell are now weighing in. One of them blasted the government for their plan to unseal testimony, calling it political warfare. But today, another victim, Annie Farmer, filed a letter with the court saying, quote, unsealing the grand jury transcripts is not just appropriate, it is necessary to understand the full scope of the abuse and those who enabled it. Ghislaine Maxwell opposes the move. Her lawyers say it would hurt her legal rights. The Epstein estate says it takes no position on the issue. And today, the House Oversight Committee issued a string of subpoenas in the case, demanding that the DOJ turn over the full unredacted Epstein files by August 19th. The committee also wants testimony from the Clintons, several former attorneys general, and 2 former FBI directors. But here's what's interesting. One person who was not subpoenaed, Alex Acosta. Do you remember that name? He was the U.S. attorney who signed off on the original Epstein deal. Acosta was serving as Trump's labor secretary when Epstein was charged again in 2019, which of course led him to resign. Remember that? All right,
But let's just keep this in focus here on what's important. Closing down bioweapon labs is not important. Epstein files are important. This is the problem that I have with the truthers out there. Get titillated on bullshit. Get focused on the wrong ball. And that's exactly what happened in 2020, in 2021, in 2022, in 2023, 2024, and 2025. I'm coming to the conclusion that these truthers, you can't focus on what's really important. Do you think Epstein really matters? Do you think that this bullshit with Maxwell really matters? Or do you think that bioweapon labs that are still functioning are more important? So why don't you spend the time to shut down the fucking labs instead of spending so much time on Epstein files? But guess what? We're going to continue on because Americans cannot focus on the important stuff. They need to be titillated.
Over the top of our lead-up panel tonight, John Allen's here, senior national politics reporter for NBC News. Daniela Diaz, congressional reporter for Notice, and Jeff Mason, White House correspondent for Reuters. Mr. Allen, let's start with you and what the president said, that he did not talk.
Mr. Allen, does this implicate Trump in the Epstein files and blah, 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 blah? Why don't you go, Mr. Allen, what do you do to shut down the fucking bioweapon labs that actually erode our constitutional freedoms and our health? No. This is more important, but let's continue because America needs to know this horseshit.
To Todd Blanche about the Maxwell interview, but he knows it was all above board. Both things cannot be true. He also defended the prison transfer. What is your take on what we heard? And by the way, this whole idea, maybe we're going to get to hear the Blanche interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. The interview might not be the only conversation they had. The interview, what they could release, could be a portion of what they want us to hear.
There's a big conspiracy. Now there's a big conspiracy out there. We need to know this. This is MSNBC. This is America. We need to know this. Really? Believe me, there are much more bigger things and bigger fish to fry than this. that directly affect your life. How's Matt? Let's view it this way. The COVID era affected your health and your wealth directly. How is the Epstein episode throughout the ages really affecting you? Really? How? Why do you listen to people that are following this horse shit? I'm playing this to show you on how idiotic it is. It's not important. There are a lot of YouTubers focusing on stuff that's just not important. And unfortunately, not enough YouTubers focusing on what is important. But let's continue, because this is really, really something that America needs to know. But I still have a hard time understanding, with all my education, I'm having a hard time understanding how this affects your life.
We don't know until we see what it is that Todd Blanche and Ghislaine Maxwell talked about. We have not seen any of it yet. You mentioned the president talking about it all being above board and not having talked to Todd Blanche about it. It's curious to me, as it is to you, that he would be able to know both of those things. But I do know that this president describes all of his actions as above board, no matter what they are. This is a president who understands that there's some value in showing, demonstrating, or at least claiming that there is arm's length distance between himself and the Justice Department. Just because Donald Trump didn't talk to Todd Blanche doesn't mean that nobody at the White House talked to Todd Blanche, and it doesn't mean that Todd Blanche doesn't know exactly what it is that he's supposed to do when he goes to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell. So, I mean, I think we're going to wait and see here on what gets released and what doesn't and when it does. But all of it is a distraction from a couple of very important things. The young girls who are hurt.
Stress keeping you up? Introducing Lemon Balm by Vimergy. This fast-absorbing concentrate works at the cellular level, so you stay calm. Vimergy, we can save ourselves.
Guess which student has a better chance of getting into an Ivy League school? First, take a look at Zach. He's valedictorian, National Merit Scholar, and he's president of the debate team. He's got a 4.4 weighted GPA and a near perfect score on the SAT. Most people would think if anyone could get into an Ivy League school, it'd be Zach. And on the other hand, take a look at Sarah. She doesn't have the best GPA or test scores, but she has things that Zach doesn't. She picked the right AP classes and summer programs, which got her a letter of recommendation from a nationally recognized scientist.
Right.
The young girls who are hurt.
That was the better play. The second student was the better play for the Ivy League. Okay, but the point here is that Trump defends Maxwell's prison transfer. It's almost as if the stupid media, the stupid mainstream media, wants to turn this whole thing into some sort of Watergate, Epstein Gate, try to take down Trump. But why doesn't this reporter spend the time to actually show the American public about the USA CCP virus that was released and that we need to shut down these fucking labs? And I've been saying this for 5 fucking years. Now, since I have a deep understanding of this, this stuff about Epstein doesn't matter. What is going on behind the scenes with the Department of Defense is, now, I'm as American as apple pie, all right? And I'm all about, God, country, and family, all right? But what I'm against is a rogue national security state doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And we need people out there that are smart, that are focused, to shut down these fucking labs instead of paying attention and doing podcasts and having Substacks about Epstein files that don't fucking matter. This doesn't matter to your life. bioweapon labs and those pathogens that are released, that affects your life directly.
The Epstein files that the Justice Department has, that still have not been released, despite months and months and months of administration claims that they would release things.
Jeff, the president didn't there, but has the White House or anyone in this administration given a real response to why exactly Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted sex trafficker, was moved from the prison she was in Florida to a much lesser, lighter prison camp over in Texas?
No. And that one, maybe to give her better, a better environment because of the deal that she's making behind the scenes, or it opens up the opportunity that maybe the Epsteiner, who knows? But what's more important is supporting people that are actually telling you how to improve your health and what the real deal is on what's going behind the scenes by the DOJ, not the DOJ, the DOD, the Department of Defense, running rogue with this whole national security state. That's more important. Why do you support people that are just talking bullshit that doesn't matter? Maybe what they're saying is true, maybe it's not. But does it really affect your life? Focus on stuff that affects your life. It's like the 80-20 rule. 80-20 rule, all right? You don't focus on the 20%, you focus on the 80%. And then after you're done with that, then you focus on another 80%. And eventually you solve this problem, or you get stuff done. 80-20 rule. What's important? What is important? Is this really important? Absolutely. And for your life, absolutely not. Unless you're on the list. But everyone wants to focus on stupid shit and not get and have an excuse for not solving problems, not solving the big stuff, not solving the 80%. They want to focus on the 20%. So stop supporting these clowns that are doing YouTube shows on stuff that's not that important. Following people regularly about Epstein is a waste of your fucking time. And you have an X amount of time in your life. Let's just do a simple calculation. Let's go on the iPhone and do a simple calculation. Let's say you live to 80 years. And how many days in a year? 365. How many hours in a day? 24. How many minutes in an hour? 60. How many seconds in a minute? 60. All right. So you have approximately 2.5 billion seconds to live. 2.5 billion seconds. You want to waste it on Epstein? Let's continue, because this is really important shit.
That's a very short and direct answer. They haven't. And I thought it was instructive or insightful anyway to hear the president respond to the question today by saying that it was not unusual. When experts have been saying now since then, since she was transferred, that it absolutely is unusual for somebody who had as many years left on her sentence and for somebody who was convicted of the crimes that she was convicted of to be transferred to that kind of a prison.
Reuters White House correspondent wasting precious seconds on Maxwell and Epstein while he could have spent the time to shut down Barrick's lab. Everything I'm saying is true. Everything. I'm just showing a light on the stupidity of America. And now you wonder why everyone's fat, stupid, and ugly.
But the prison system has not answered, and the White House has not suggested, hasn't given any background or reasoning for it either. Certainly, again, also interesting that it's on the president's radar, and this is coming at a time when the conspiracy theories around Epstein and around Ghislaine Maxwell have certainly not dropped. And the fact that she was transferred shortly after having the meeting that she did with the president's deputy attorney general has only led to additional questions and I think probably theories that this was some kind of a signal or a trade-off. I don't have any evidence to prove that, but the White House and the administration has not done anything to explain the other, whatever alternative reasoning there would be for that transfer.
Well, how about these new subpoenas, Daniela? What are you hearing from folks on the Hill? We've got all sorts of people in former administrations and the FBI who they want to hear from, but not Alex Acosta, the person who was directly involved in that first, what many call sweetheart deal that Jeffrey Epstein got down in Florida. That was Alex's doing, and nobody's looking to have a conversation with him.
Stephanie, it's very clear.
I started my first business in the basement of a factory over 30 years ago. We had no heat, no air conditioning. Instead of customers, our office visitors were wrapped.
Stephanie, it's very clear that these subpoenas from the House Oversight Committee, especially the ones done for Republicans, which are the ones that you talked about for, former President Bill Clinton, his wife Hillary Clinton, of course, former U.S. Attorneys Generals, James Comey, those were very political in their nature and very pointed from Republicans on the committee in an effort to fight back against Democrats who actually were the first ones to subpoena and win because they have Republican support.
There's an active shooting situation at Fort Stewart in Georgia. U.S. Army base is currently locked down. This just happened 7 minutes ago. But we're going to continue on Epstein because Epstein's so important.
As well on this. You're hearing members of Congress talking about this at town halls. Mike Flood was flooded, excuse my word there, by constituents on this issue. Not only that, but of course all the other things that Republicans are doing in Congress right now, like cutting Medicaid, et cetera, with that big beautiful bill. But the pressure is mounting.
We're going to shut this clown off and we're going to go to live now with this active shooting.
Have been reported and the situation is ongoing. They are asking folks to follow their platforms for more information. We also have a statement from Governor Kemp saying, as we remain in close contact with law enforcement on the ground, Marty, the girls, and I are saddened by today's tragedy at Fort Stewart. We are keeping the victims, their families, and all those who answer the call to serve in our hearts and prayers. And we ask that Georgians everywhere do the same. We are working to gather additional details. As you can imagine, this is an extremely fluid situation. We are working to get more details in terms of how this all unfolded, as well as the injured and the casualties. As soon as we do receive more information, we're going to pass it along to you right here on Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, we are going to be taking a break.
All right, let me plug the product here. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You don't want to look like an Epstein or a Maxwell, so take my collagen. This collagen has a typical amino acid profile shown on the screen. You can also read the label on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's a powder. Take it every day. Mix it with soft foods, filtered water, a smoothie, milk, however you want to take it, but take it every day. You can also couple this with the vitamin C and magnesium. When you drink filtered water, around 32 to 64 ounces throughout the day of filtered water with the vitamin C, it's going to cross-link with the collagen and create a better dermal layer. So that's a great way to help with your skin. In addition, collagen helps with musculature, your joints, your cartilage, your tendons, your ligaments, really important for your overall health. Do some resistance training. So it's a dual purpose supplement. Take it every day. It's very high quality. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. Taking care of your health is way more important than the Epstein files, since you only have 2.5 billion seconds to live. But, you know, there are tons of people having big YouTube channels talking about the Epstein files because it's so important. Please go to my store and get the Boomer Boost. The Boomer Boost is 68 nutrients. It has a very comprehensive compound profile shown on the screen. Read the label on my website. This targets multiple systems. It targets your cardiovascular system. It targets your brain function. It helps to rev up your metabolism, boosts up your energy levels. Super important to take every day. It's a powder. Take it every day. And what you're going to notice is that if you take it for your breakfast or your lunch, you're going to lose weight. Not only that, you're going to have the energy throughout the whole day. It's going to be a steady burn of energy, no spiking. You're going to be able to concentrate better. You're going to have less brain fog. You're going to sleep better. And not only that, you're going to have more vitality. And you're going to be moving around. You'll be more active. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Boomer Boost. Take it every day. Very important. It's a great way to get healthy and to control those A1C levels. Very important. All right, let's go back to live now about the shooting here.
There as we continue to follow this breaking news, but this is the very latest at this hour. This is according to Fox 5 Atlanta. Multiple casualties have been reported during this ongoing active shooter situation at Georgia's Fort Stewart Army Post. A lockdown has been issued for the base and the Wright and Evans Army Airfield. Authorities say that one suspect has been identified by law enforcement, but they did not release that suspect's name. So a lockdown currently in place at Georgia's Fort Stewart after what officials are calling an active shooter incident. They issued this statement as well on their Facebook page saying, lock down your facility immediately, stay inside, close and lock all windows and doors, keep telephone lines open, and report accountability to your leadership. That is what Army officials wrote on the Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield Facebook page. Army officials have confirmed the lockdown, and the Lieutenant Colonel Angel Tomko telling the Associated Press, quote, "We are currently assessing the situation."
Why did it stop?
Identified by law enforcement, but that person's name not released. At this point in time, law enforcement officers remain on the scene, and the gates into the Army post are currently closed because of that lockdown. On a soft lockdown, quote, out of an abundance of caution. That is according to the Liberty County School System via their Facebook page. And I did also want to share this with you as well. This is Georgia Governor Brian Kemp sharing this statement on social media saying, as we remain in close contact with law enforcement on the ground, Marty, the girls, and I are saddened by today's tragedy at Fort Stewart. We are keeping the victims, their families, and all the call to serve in our hearts and prayers, and we ask that Georgians everywhere do the same. So we are keeping a very close eye on all of these details. We know one suspect has been identified according to authorities right there, not releasing any information, and there are casualties also confirmed, the number of those casualties also not being released. To give you a greater context, Fort Stewart is southwest of Savannah. It is the largest Army post east of the Mississippi River, and it is home to the Army's 3rd Infantry Division. We're continuing to receive updates and pass them along to you as this continues to be a very fluid breaking news situation. We do not have a live look near this scene, but as soon as we do, we of course will share that with you. And we are continuing to look at all of the responses and the comments and statements issued by law enforcement, by the various agencies involved, as this continues to be a very active situation. We are going to continue to monitor and bring you all of those updates as there is currently an active shooter incident at Fort Stewart in Georgia right there. We also have this is from Reuters right here, saying casualties are reported in an active shooter incident at the Fort Stewart U.S. Army installation in the state of Georgia. So we do have some information to pass along to you. We know that there is an active shooter incident at the Fort Stewart U.S. Army installation. This is in Georgia. This is southwest of Savannah. We do know that casualties have been reported. We also know that a suspect has been identified. That is what we know right now. We are working to gather more information as the Army is sharing updates, as other agencies and law enforcement, including the school district nearby, is sharing new updates there as well. And Representative Carter from Georgia also saying, I am monitoring the situation.
Well, it's glad that he's monitoring it because that's his job. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the barley. I have heirloom barley and gladiator barley. Now, heirloom barley will detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, and help to soak up free radicals through superoxide dismutase. It's a powder. It's a high-density protein. You take it every day and mix it with soft foods, filtered water, milk, or a smoothie. Gladiator barley gets all the benefits of heirloom barley, detoxification, bringing down inflammation, and soaking up free radicals, but it also helps to build muscle. This stacks really well with Myotrol and stacks really well with Boomer Boost. By taking this, you're going to help to build muscle, all right? But if you take these with Boomer Boost, you're going to be able to help to control your A1C levels. You'll control your A1C levels even more by doing resistance training, building muscle, taking the gladiator barley and the Boomer Boost. And it's a great way to lose weight, healthy. See, it's not about just losing weight. Let's say you're a tub alert and you weigh 300 pounds or whatever. You don't want to lose weight fast. You want to lose weight slowly and keep it off your body and maintain energy levels. And if you lose weight slowly and safely, and you maintain that weight loss, it will become more permanent. But if you do the yo-yo diet, then you're going to gain weight. In addition, a lot of people don't realize that after you lose your weight, those adipose tissue are still there. Those fat cells are still there. They're just shrunken because it's released all of its triglycerides and fatty acids. It takes approximately 5 to 7 years for the adipose tissue to actually die off, to actually go into apoptosis. That's the reason why people that lose weight get fat quicker, get back to fat state quicker because their adipose tissue didn't go away yet. Just because you lose weight doesn't mean that the cells are gone. The fat cells are gone. No, the fat cells are still there. It takes 5 to 7 years for them to go into apoptosis. That's the reason why you want to lose weight safely and maintain that weight loss for 5 to 7 years. And then you've reached that goal of maintaining, changing your lifestyle that allows for a healthy maintenance of your weight. And it'll be easier after that 5 to 7 year mark. It's hard. But the thing is that people don't normally, there's some rare cases, but people don't come out of the womb fat. All right. It takes a while to get fat. So there are cases where it's genetic, but please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the gladiator barley, get the heirloom barley, get the Boomer Boost, stack them together. It's a great way to get healthy. Do some resistance training, stretching, balancing exercises, and cardio, and change your lifestyle. And guess what? You're a lot healthier. And when you're a lot healthier, you're not going to have as many medical problems later in life. All right. With that, let's go to Bloomberg.
Soon the deadline, of course, for secondary sanctions on Russia to hit on Friday. So if we get something out of us between.
I'm having audio problems. Unfortunately, I'm having audio problems.
Sued by Republicans in Texas.
By Democrats in the Lone Star State. Of course, they have fled. And if you're familiar with this program, you've probably heard from several of them, including James Talarico, who joined us before this even began to give us a sense of what we might be in for here. Democrats decided to go for it. Went to Chicago, went to Albany, went to Boston. And this thing is held up in the meantime because they have broken quorum, right? That's how this works. That's why the governor of Texas has called for their arrest. And now the feds here, by way of Senator Cornyn of Texas, Republican senator, are calling for the FBI to act and claw these Democrats back to Texas. Probably unlikely, but President Trump did address this possibility when he spoke to reporters last evening. Listen.
Well, I think they've abandoned the state. Nobody's seen anything like it, even though they've done it twice before. And in a certain way, it almost looks like they've abandoned the state. It looks very bad. Yeah, go ahead, please.
FBI get involved? Should the FBI get involved?
Well, they may have to. They may have to.
They may have to. That's where we start our conversation with Ashley Davis, the Republican strategist, back with us, partner at S3 Group. Ashley, it's great to see you. This has become a national story, and we can pick away at this from a couple of different angles, because I want to ask you about what's happening in other states, potentially like Indiana, even Missouri. But to begin with Texas, you don't see the FBI going after Democrats in other states, do you?
No, I do think, though, that this is just a lot of drama. And even though there is a lot going on in August is usually a slow time. So this is even a bigger story. But listen, I think the broader point, Chris, Joe, is that there has been a politicalization, excuse me on that word, for over the last decade in regards to redistricting. It started out in, let's just take recent history, 2018 in Pennsylvania, Republicans were blaming Democrats of being too political. North Carolina, 2020, Democrats were blaming Republicans. Remember, Eric Holder spent a decade of his life and raised over $1 billion on redistricting after he left Barack Obama. So this is just something, as a broader point, has just been too political. In regards to, in my opinion, in regards to Texas, obviously this has happened before. I think that
another piece of shit in politics, Eric Holder.
Governor that has a lot of power. This is really their only way that they can fight back, and it's by using this mechanism. But Joe, I think this ends because of one major reason. It's not just for redistricting that they're not voting on. They're not voting on the flood relief for the horrible situation that happened there just a few weeks ago. And I think at some point, after maybe a couple more days of drama, a couple more days of news headlines, that they're going to have to come back and vote on that alone, just because I think politically, and you can see it kind of popping up in the social media world right now. They're starting to get a little bit of blowback because of the flood relief.
Although I suppose Governor Abbott could isolate this special session to flood relief and get to redistricting at another time, but of course Democrats will probably just leave it anyway. At some point they're going to have to get to this, and we've seen this happen before. But I want to ask you about other states. You know, everyone jumps to California and what the Democrats might do here, what Gavin Newsom might have up his sleeve. But Republicans aren't stopping in Texas here, it seems. The White House is pushing this idea on other states, including Indiana, to the extent that J.D. Vance is heading to Indianapolis to sit down with Governor Mike Braun to talk about this idea. And granted, he is there for a fundraiser for the Republican National Committee. But to what extent will Republican governors embrace this around the country?
Well, it depends, not just what the governors do, but also just how much control the state legislatures or a special commission on redistricting would have in every state. So it really does depend on state by state. How it can happen. Texas is just a little bit different because of the power that the governor and the legislature has on the topic. But yes, Indiana, Missouri,
two states Republicans are looking at. Democrats obviously heard it, Newsom, New York, and also in California, New York, Illinois, Minnesota, I think is another one that I'm hearing. So listen, all gloves are off, but it's not going to be as easy in these other states as it is in Texas. And you saw what happened even today with Governor Braun saying, or maybe it was actually yesterday, where he said, listen, I'm going to have a conversation. I don't know what can happen. Because he doesn't have a supermajority. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. Each state has its own kind of fingerprint when it comes to this story. Ashley, I want to ask you while you're with us about what's happening on Capitol Hill, or what's about to happen, maybe what's not about to happen, because you're so connected to lawmakers and their staff on the Hill. We had a bit of a breakdown between Democrats and Republicans over nominations last weekend. Everybody left town angry. There was no deal between Schumer and Thune on this, and it's leading many to believe that a government shutdown will be even more likely when lawmakers return after the August recess. Is that how you see it?
I feel that every year I hear there's going to be a shutdown, and usually 95% of the time it doesn't happen. So, but there is, I'm not ready to say that for sure, that we're going to have a shutdown. And I'm definitely not, I think we're like 50% maybe. And what I'm seeing though is just really, really bad blood in regards to Democrats and Republicans right now because of the rescission package, because of reconciliation. And by the way, this happens every time. The Republicans and Democrats were fighting when Biden did his big two reconciliation bills when he was in, when the Democrats had control. So this is very normal. I'm not real worked up about it right now, but I do think there's a broader issue. And the broader issue is what Senator Rounds has actually been talking about yesterday and today. And we have way too many people that have to get Senate confirmed. I believe in the institution of the Senate 100%. I think it's fantastic tradition. However, no matter what party it is, you spend so much time trying to get some of these positions through through the Senate floor. And because of the rules of the Senate, as you know, Joe, it just takes a long time. And when you have 1,100 positions that need confirmed, it probably is not necessary. So let's walk through this just very quick. We have the Supreme Court justices, we have major judges, we have cabinet secretaries, maybe even the deputy secretary, and even I would go and give it to the general counsel of each agency. But I'm not sure if the assistant secretary.
No.
Yeah.
Needs to be Senate confirmed. Or here's a perfect example, Joe. Last Trump administration, I was put up for a board appointment for the National Endowment of the Arts. It was a Senate confirmed position. There is no reason that position needs to be confirmed and take up Senate floor time. So that's what I'm saying. I think we could do.
Well, it sounds like some procedures or maybe rules are going to be changing here. Maybe the way that they're even passed in the Senate. Ashley, it's great to have you as always. Ashley Davis, S3 Group Republican strategist, who we learn a lot from on and off the air. One of the more interesting stories of the day is not from Washington at all, but from the corporate world. McDonald's helping to fill in the blanks here when it comes to anecdotal evidence over what's happening in the economy. Look no further than the headline. McDonald's says economic stress is sapping breakfast meal sales. Wanted to talk about this with Michael Halen for just a moment. Senior restaurant food service analyst, Bloomberg Intelligence. Michael, you got one of the best beats in the building here. I thought about getting an Egg McMuffin on my way this morning. I didn't. So I guess I'm part of the problem here. How do we read into the language from McDonald's about what's happening in the broader economy?
Yeah, well, I'm more of a sausage McMuffin guy personally, but
I'm with you.
Yeah, they mentioned that the low income consumer traffic was down double digits. What I like about McDonald's is they weren't using it as an excuse. They were using it to help guide their marketing programs and their new item launches for the year. But yeah, low-income consumers continue to be strapped. That's a big part of the reason why quick service restaurants have underperformed full service restaurants this year, inflation is cumulative, right? And so real incomes are negative for low income consumers and they continue to suffer. But McDonald's is working hard to try to bring back some of those low income consumers. They make up about a third of their transactions, right? So in January, they launched a new McValue meal, $5 meal deals. It also has a buy one, add one for $1. And a big part of that is also going to be snack wraps. Snack wraps are coming in at a $3 price point. And so, you know, it's a beloved item coming back to the menu, but it's also one that low income consumers can easily afford. And then at the same time, higher income consumers can add them to their checks.
I've only got a minute, Michael. I need to do a deep dive with you and we can clear out some time here on a number of questions that I have. But McDonald's stock's doing great today. It's up $8, almost 3%. Is that because of expectations or because if the economy slows, McDonald's benefits?
You know, our view isn't that the economy slows. Listen, man, restaurants are the canary in the coal mine. They had their recession last year. Restaurant sales, we expect to continue to be better than last year. We think second half can be better than the first half. You know, McDonald's is up because it's outperforming its peers. Right now, it's a stock picker's market. Some chains are taking shares, some are not. McDonald's is clearly one that took share in the second quarter.
And I know it's been distressed to some extent going into the earnings. Michael, come back and let's walk through all of the different levels of the restaurant industry. We'll go from high end down to fast food and see what that tells us about the economy. I like your style and I want to have you back. Nobody calls me man around here other than Michael. Alan, sorry. Michael Halen, Bloomberg Intelligence.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. C60 is an antioxidant. It's very potent. You can get it in MCT coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, or in avocado oil. C60 is a carbon molecule that needs to be suspended in a lipid, in an oil, for you to properly absorb it. Take it on an empty stomach. Take a teaspoon a day. If you work out, take it before your workout, and you'll be able to recover quicker. But what it does is it's going to soak up free radicals at the cellular level and at the vascular level. And when it does that, it's going to help reduce the stress in the cell and in your tissues. It's going to help with the mitochondrial health. You're going to have more energy. And your tissues and organ systems are going to perform better. Your immune system is going to perform better. Your endocrine system is going to perform better. Your neurons will perform better. And at the vascular level, by soaking up those free radicals, you're reducing the chances of oxidized LDL. And when you do that, you're reducing the chances of plaque formation. So that's going to help with cardiovascular health. So taking C60 every day, teaspoon a day, is very important as part of an anti-aging protocol, and you're going to get healthy. And what you're going to start noticing within a year is that you literally look younger. All right. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take the C60. It stacks really well with resveratrol, ubiquinol, NAD+, clarity factor. There's lots of ways to stack this to build your own protocol. But a great protocol to consider is taking the Cleanse Max 35 or Max 14 as your first pillar to boost up that immune system. C60 to soak up those free radicals. Turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans to boost up your immune system and help with your cardiovascular health. And Boomer Boost to rev up your metabolism and your energy levels. It's a great way to get healthy. So get the C60. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. It is cheaper per ounce at the higher ounce configuration. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and get $5 off any order. Spend $100 or more, and you get a free gift. So thank you for listening. That's the end of the transmission. I wish you a good day. Please go to my store, get the great products that I offer, and get healthy. Thank you for listening.